All right, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's regular council meeting. We call the meeting to order at 5:01. And as we gather here in Beaumont, we want to acknowledge the land we're blessed to live and work on and to honor those who came before us. We value the enduring relationships with the Indigenous peoples who continue to share their history, knowledge, and culture with our community. We're also thankful for the generosity or the generations whose dedication and faith helped shape this community into the vibrant city it is today. So first on our list is the adoption of the agenda. So I will need any questions about that or any before we, okay. So we'll need Mr. Hyde.
Mayor, just to confirm, administration doesn't have any deletions or additions to the agenda this evening.
All right, then I will move that the December 9th, 2025 regular council agenda be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote. We have one person remaining. I know, you get hit it twice sometimes. Pass, carried unanimous. All right, so I believe right now we have open forum, is that right, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we do have one registration for open forum, Mr. Carl Savard.
I'm checking to see where he is.
He's on his way. I'm not sure what the protocol is for late members, or maybe you can direct us, Madam Clerk, in terms of timing.
Thank you, Mayor. If council's okay to proceed forward with the agenda, we can always come back to that.
Everyone good? Okay, let's do that. All right, so let's go on to consent agenda. And we need a motion for that. Someone to move that,
For this evening,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
would you like me to read out the consent
Yes, please,
agenda?
go ahead.
Thank you. All right, the council approves to the following agenda items without debate. Item 5.1, regular council meeting minutes. The council accept the meeting minutes of the November 10th, 2025 regular council meeting as presented. 5.2, the 2026 budget presentation and deliberation meeting minutes from November 19th to the 20th and 26th to the 27th of 2025. The council accept the minutes of the November 19th and 20th and 26th, 27th, 2025, 2026 budget presentations and deliberations meeting as presented. Item 6.1, request for extension bylaw 994-19 land use bylaw cannabis buffer amendment, that council approve an extension to the date required to bring the requested land use bylaw amendment to increase the distance between cannabis retail uses and all daycare uses from the end of November 2025 by the end of Q1 2026. Item 6.2, the Alberta Municipality Water and Wastewater Partnership Grant Application, that council endorses the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership Grant Application to fund the planned St. Vital Reservoir expansion. Bylaw 7.1, item 7.1, bylaw 1091-25, responsible pet ownership amending bylaw, first, second, and third reading. That council gives first reading to amending bylaw. Council give second reading to bylaw 1091-25. Bylaw 7.2, 1090-25, grant funding advisory committee amending bylaw, first, second, and third reading. That bylaw 1090-25, grant funding advisory committee bylaw, amending bylaw, be given first reading, and bylaw 1090-25 be given second reading, and 1090-25 be considered for third reading, and finally 1090-25 be given third reading. Item 11.1, the provincial electoral boundaries review, that the proposed written submission attached to the December 9th, 2025 closed session report, provincial electoral boundaries review, be provided to the 2025-2026 Electoral Boundaries Commission prior to December 19th, 2025, and that the city's submission to the 2025-2026 Electoral Boundaries Commission be shared with regional municipalities, stakeholders as requested, and that the media release be prepared and a notice published on the city's website with links to the city's submission to the 2025-2026 Electoral Boundaries Commission and the Commission's website to inform residents of the proposed changes and opportunities to provide feedback, and that the report remain confidential pursuant to Sections 26 and 29 of the Access to Information Act. Item 11.2, the 2026 Annual Public Member Appointments, Council Boards and Committees, that the appointment and term as set out in the December 9th, 2025 report, the 2026 Annual Public Member Appointments, Council Boards and Committees be approved, and that the report remain confidential pursuant to Sections 20 and 34 of the Access to Information Act until the applicants are informed. Thank you.
That was a mouthful. Thank you for that. So we will need to have a council. First of all, is there anybody who wants to pull anything out of consent agenda? Okay.
I'm just going to make the motion as read by the clerk. And let her have a glass of water. So let her do that.
And any discussion on anything there? Okay, so we will vote to approve the consent agenda. And carried unanimously. Thank you.
And Mayor, I do see Mr. Savard has arrived here, so if
Yes.
you'd like to go back to open forum.
We're going to go back to the open forum now. Welcome. Would you like to take a seat?
Sorry about this.
So, yeah, it's okay. So I think your microphone just, there we go. Oh, it's number 7. I got the wrong one.
Sorry, my apologies. I was on my way. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Carl Savard and I am a member of this community. A few months ago, I came to present findings from a poll taken of the residents of Beaumont. At the time, I presented findings on the acceptance, compliance, and possible improvement of the 50-kilometer-an-hour speed zone just north of Township Road 510, adjacent to La Rive community. During the original presentation, I presented data related to the demographic of the respondents, travel patterns, driving speeds, reasonings, factors influencing decisions, and safety perception. Here are just a few of the results received. 89% of the respondents travel above the speed limit posted. 64% believe that the 50-kilometer-an-hour speed limit is not necessary. 95% believe that the speed limit should be greater than 60 kilometers an hour. And 89% believe that the lower speed limit does not improve safety in that area. The average speed was clocked northbound and southbound at 68 kilometers an hour over a 1-hour period. This roadway segment is designated as an arterial road under the Transportation Master Plan with a possible geometric design and classification, likely UFD 412.4-100 or higher. The road was designed for 100 kilometers an hour speed limit in travel. Reducing this roadway to 50 kilometers an hour has created inconsistencies between its design intent and its operational reality. Table 1 of the Transportation Master Plan is also inconsistent with provincial geometric design parameters guidelines, such as those speed limits suggested in Table A-8-2A. The City of Beaumont states that the reduction was necessary due to continued growth, traffic patterns, and volumes changing to ensure safe driving conditions. The roadway is designed with all the necessary safety components, such as slopes, clear zones, etc., to accommodate design speed limits, future driving conditions, continued growth, volumes, and patterns. This is a red herring. According to Alberta Transportation Guidelines, artificially low speed limits on arterial roads can lead to reduced driver compliance, increased unsafe passing behavior, and greater driver frustration, which we are seeing in that section. In short, speed limits must align with roadway design for both safety and credibility. A good example is 91st Street in Edmonton, from Anthony Henday to White Mud. The road has a similar cross-section it has a designated speed limit of 70 kilometers an hour, which is within the Alberta Transportation Design Parameter Guidelines. Sorry, I'm out of breath.
It's okay, take a breath.
The apparent justifications for lowering the speed limit to 50 kilometers an hour appear to be related to the lack of traffic control systems and the deferral or removal of the construction of the MUT pathway in 2024 from the subdivision development. The results of these decisions have been seen in our community as residents walk the roadway shoulder in order to come to the city proper or return to the Larive subdivision. These justifications created developer or even city administration-induced safety issues, not driver safety issues. To hide these apparent induced safety issues, the speed limit was reduced. The cost of building the pathway and installing the traffic control system is the responsibility of the developer and should have been installed and built prior to the first residents moving into the subdivision. That would have been the safe way to build the subdivision and would not have necessitated the reduction in the speed limit. To correct this situation, on behalf of the residents of Beaumont, I ask the following. Reinstate a speed limit that is consistent with current Alberta transportation roadway design parameters and operational reality. For the developer to complete installation and construction of the traffic control devices and the MUT link servicing the residents between the subdivision and the city, not the city residents, to provide that cost. It's not our problem. And amend the Transportation Master Plan, Table 1, to reflect Alberta Transportation's suggested design speeds for urban arterial divided classification. In conclusion, this is about ensuring consistency, safety, and transparency. The speed limit should match roadway design and operational reality, and the developer is responsible for the safety of the residents and must install the safety elements needed as soon as possible. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Savard. We will open it up for any questions. I will say you put a lot of information in there. It'd be lovely to have, be great to have that document, if you wouldn't mind
Yeah, I can
allowing us to have that, to be able to refer to. But I'd love if you would remind us why you decided to do this study in the first place. It has something to do with your work as well, right?
Not really. At first, this was a school project, a university project management school project. And I had chosen this section of road and how it could be improved as part of a management course. And I did a Google poll with the residents of Beaumont on Beaumont Talks. And over, I think it was 135 respondents in about an hour or so. So I stopped it after 24 hours. But it was that. And then from there I thought, you know, there's got to be something. If 90% of the residents are not happy with that decision, there's got to be something. So I looked further into it. And I came to the city originally with the results, with no ulterior motives, as Councillor Newark-Kirk had stated. There was no. So I came with the results, but now, you know, more residents, especially when I was running for council, more residents I talked to, they still don't like it, and they want something done with it. And I thought, I'll come back to this council and request it a second time, and hopefully they'll see that it needs to go up. The proper thing to do is for it to go up. It doesn't have to go up to 80 kilometers an hour, but it has to be, operational reality has to fit.
I found that interesting. You said that about the safety measure when you don't go to the speed of what it was designed for. I'm going to open it up. Any other councillors have any questions for Mr. Savard or comments? Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mr. Savard, for coming in and presenting to us. Pardon my groggy voice. I'm just curious, though, with the questionnaire and the conversations that you've had with other residents, When or if the lights go in at that corner where La Rev is, are the residents expecting that's going to be happening? Are they aware that even though, let's just say we did raise up the speed limit from the sort of outer limits of the city proper, as you kind of called it, up to that La Rev area and onward, will they still be upset if there's going to be a traffic light there?
I think the majority of the residents do not quite know yet that there are some lights being built there. Last time I came this summer, the administration, after a question from City Council, divulged to City Council, I think that was the first time they heard about it, that administration was planning on putting a set of lights there. By my professional thoughts on this is whether there's a set of lights there or not, it's not going to make a difference whether the road stays at a higher speed or not from 510 to La Rive. It can stay at 65, 70 kilometers an hour. The traffic light will be most likely designed to meet the needs for traffic and flow through in both direction. There's lots of lights on 91st Street between Anthony Hendy and White Mud that do not affect the arterial use of 91st Street. This can be exactly like that.
When I've talked about it with people that I know, my comparison is always that road going alongside Devon. And although they have a speed of 70 kilometers, that highway, I don't know, the one that goes over the river.
Going into the Devon or South one? Or
Yeah, not highway, is it Highway
that's the
60,
one
I
going
think?
from the airport?
It's adjacent to the city, like when you're going to
Okay.
go in and turn into the city.
Yep.
Of course, the speed limit is higher, but then there are those sets of lights And so I just wonder if the people will still be upset, even if the speed limit maybe were to get raised, if the light goes in, are they still going to be upset about that? That's kind of
About
my
the speed limit?
comparison.
Or about the lights being there?
Just about traffic issues.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
It will become normal pattern. Now, if you were to put a satellite in front of the first entrance into the subdivision, and then put a second satellite right at the second entrance where Old Yale is, possibly they would bicker about it because of the distance. But you have a good distance between 510 and the major entrance to La Rive subdivision. So I don't see the residents bickering about having a satellites there.
Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Svart. You mentioned 91st Street is an analog to the section of road.
Yep.
And you mentioned the cross-section comparison and a couple other metrics. Can you just go back and maybe highlight those again, where they're comparable, maybe where they're
So
different?
91st Street is considered an arterial divided 4 lanes. And it has, I think it's a 14.5 meter median, recess median with this road here is similar to that in that the fact that it also has around a 14 meter median with a 4 lane divided. The slopes for this type of roads are anywhere between 4-1 and 10-1. At 4-1, all slopes are considered by Alberta Transportation as recoverable slopes. They're safe for speeds up to 100 kilometers an hour.
And just by slope, make sure I understand it correctly, that's the
slope going from the shoulder of the asphalt
right.
down to the bottom of the trench, the ditch area. That slope is designed so that if a vehicle takes the shoulder of the road and the slope, they can recover back onto the road with an appropriate slope design of greater than, a 3-to-1 is recoverable, but this type of design is a 4-to-1 minimum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other councillor questions? Councillor Tellenboss.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Savard. Just quick question in regards to your initial report that you provided to council. Has there been any additional research or changes since your initial
No.
time coming in? No.
I have not completed an updated poll. This was the only and original poll with the data. All I did was just extrapolate some of the data that was already in there and just gave this council a few examples.
Okay,
But
perfect.
if you wish to see the whole thing, I can more than happily submit it to council.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the more the merrier in terms of information, so would appreciate that. Another question I have is just in regards to, you did note quite a few concerns, with I think the biggest being there's no pathway. So you do have pedestrian traffic on that road. Would it maybe be a better idea, do you think, to push this along as we start to see some of the construction of some of these paths and light systems, as opposed to putting pedestrians at risk? I realize you had mentioned originally it's for the drivers and the commuters on the road, but we also have to look out for the pedestrians that are taking that route. So just curious if maybe there's a better timeline when we could reevaluate.
My thought is, the Rive subdivision stands as an island development. There's no other real development around it. It stands as an island. The only way to connect the two for a pedestrian is to do an MUT, a multi-use trail, as it's called. You know, it's 3 meters, it's 75 millimeters thick of asphalt, and you can drive an ambulance. It's designed to drive an ambulance on top. That should have been done in order to keep the residents safe because of its unique circumstance. Typically, from what I've seen in the past, the subdivisions around here, the development was adjacent to another development where the residents could come, just cross the street and have access to some safe path, like a sidewalk. This one, you don't have it. And it makes it more difficult by the fact that it's situated adjacent to an arterial road. The majority of the subdivisions in this community are not along an arterial road. The county roads on all 4 sides act more as a collector road. But I can see these county roads in the future becoming arterial road. But the design of those county roads is not arterial, it's collector. There's a difference.
No, perfect. But I guess some of the comparisons that you're providing, such as, I believe you said Anthony Henday to Whitemud, is it?
Anthony Hyde, yeah, to Whitemud.
I'm pretty confident, just in my own head here, that there's a path along the way, correct?
There is.
And I guess that would be the difference maker here, whether, it's the developer, we were at fault for not recognizing or not able to put a path in place. There's talks, obviously, about that happening down the road. But until we get to that point, would you not confirm that it might be a little bit dangerous to have folks walking up and down there and we shoot that up to 80 or 70?
It is dangerous to have anyone walk along the shoulder road of an arterial road. It's inherently unsafe. The only way to make it temporarily safe would be to add a series of F barriers, and to take the shoulder, add F barriers all the way from 510 all the way to that first road, to allow the residents to walk safely while being protected from the traffic. It's done in temporary construction zones throughout Alberta, and it's done on bridge constructions where we just put an F barrier, anchor it through the ACP, the asphalt, because there's a 1.2 meter deflection requirement on those F barriers, and you don't want to see that unless they're anchored.
Okay,
But it's going to
perfect.
cost money to do that if that MUT isn't done soon.
Thank you. I appreciate the response.
Thank you, Mr. Savar. We appreciate you coming and presenting again. And yeah, if you want to provide that information to us, we would be appreciative of that.
I will.
And we'll take it under review. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming. All right, we're going to move on to our next section here, motion following notice. Is that correct? We're going down to 6.3, Madam Clerk? Am I skipping over properly here? Yeah, okay. By the way, just so you know, my computer's kind of going wonky. I can't really see anything on it. It's not showing me anything, so if,
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. So when the councillor sees their name up on the screen, they can go ahead and make their motion as we go through them.
okay, Councillor Murray. Oops, back one, sorry. I'm going to go back up. So this one I am withdrawing. I made mention to that to the city clerk because we are actually doing a full review of the meeting procedures bylaw in 2026. So that I will be withdrawing that for tonight. We don't need to move forward. And Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. I'll move that administration organize a collaborative meeting with all active and prospective developers and home builders in Beaumont to be held in the first quarter of 2026. Thank you. I'll speak to that motion.
Yes, please
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, so tonight I'm asking for council's support on this motion. I'm putting this forward with the intention of providing an opportunity to continue to collaborate with the developers and builders currently operating in the community. Having an open dialogue with those groups operating in the community is quite important. And I do want to state that it is administration's role to work directly with these groups on a day-to-day basis. And the purpose of this meeting is not to upset that relationship. So what I'm looking for is for council to support a meeting or event that there's an ability to collaborate and work with developers to talk through any concerns that they have, bring forward any ideas that they have, or the like. Basically, something straightforward that starts a dialogue between council and those groups as well, so that they feel as supported as they can be in the community. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. Any discussion? Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent idea to bring some collaboration together with our respective partners in the community. Would you be open to a friendly amendment to adding perhaps a realtor organization or something like that nature in with this, so we could get an idea of what the prospective home buyers are looking for and such like that as well? Somebody, I don't know, that's running a home builders association, maybe in Edmonton, or the Realtors Association.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, maybe a question for administration. Is it best wording to say collaborative meeting, or should it be a collaborative meeting or event? I just want to make sure that the spirit of this isn't formalized to the point where it's logistically challenging and near impossible. Just looking for some support from administration on that, on the legislative services side or such.
Great. Who would like to speak to that?
And the reason I say that, Councillor Hyde, is because, you know, if it was a meeting or event, and if it was some kind of event, then it's probably easier for more different professionals to collaborate in a space together. So,
Yeah, I had the same thought as well in terms of whether or not we need to add a friendly amendment like other stakeholders.
yeah.
Might be good. So who's going to speak to this? CAO Schwartz?
Yeah, a suggestion that I would make is perhaps you label it differently, and let's see, administration organize a meet and greet meeting with all active developers, builders, agents, or what have you. I will note that planning does do a regular consultation with the developers and home builders in the city, so this would be something a little different than that. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, and I think, and thanks for pointing that out. I think the point of this is just something a little bit different at the front end of the term is all I was thinking. If we could change the wording there from that collaborative meeting to meet and greet event, as CAO suggested, or if there's different wording.
A quick question for you.
And then the title might be collaborative event instead of meeting. So. And then active, with all active, and others, and then if you could add and other stakeholders into that, somehow that might cover developers, home builders, and other stakeholders. That probably is a catch-all. And then just move the home builders. Yeah, as long as we have other stakeholders, home builders, effective developers, that's the spirit. So I think I think those edits are wrapping up the feedback and questions so far. So we'll see where we go from here.
Okay, yeah. Just a quick question, then I'll go over to you, Councillor Penrod. Just a typo there to Madam Clerk, meet and greet. It's probably going to be a great meeting, but it's a great event.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, to understand the purpose of the meeting, I think would help. I love it. I think it's necessary and great. I would just like to understand your thinking in terms of the intent of the meeting and what you hope to achieve that meeting.
Yeah. I guess my personal vision on the purpose for this is to start to form relationships for new councillors with those working in the community, and to reestablish some of the relationships that may have lapsed between myself or other councillors with the different groups working in the community moving forward. And I would say secondarily, it would be nice for council to be able to say hi and exchange greetings with everyone who's working in the community, because I'm sure it's quite a large number of people now, and I've lost track of that, and I think it'd be great to understand that again. So
Okay, that's good. So meet and greet.
Relationship building. Yeah.
So a meet and greet is probably a good way to present it.
And again, not to upend any of the day-to-day with
Sure.
administration. That is administration's role. This is a relationship piece.
Perfect. Councillor Penrod and then Councillor Natellenbos.
Thanks, Mayor. Your question, I think, spoke mostly to what I was looking for. And I know, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, you've talked at other times about like a citizen roundtable, and I recall you speaking at budget about kind of a change in tack towards this. Just help me wrap my mind around. So we've already kind of addressed these events happen to some degree or another already. They have in the past included council even, occasionally I would say. The piece that's missing in the current motion is that kind of public engagement that formerly you had talked about. So maybe that's a whole nother conversation, but just wondering how you're contemplating addressing that breakdown in trust or acknowledgement that we could work on that relationship with the public here. How does an event like this address that or build towards doing that work?
Yeah, I think my subsequent motion later in the meeting is what's going to speak to that piece, the whole community growth, committee idea and the evolution of that. So that is the piece that I'll speak to later. This one, the more tighter focus is definitely between, council, builders, developers, other stakeholders, and I would assume some kind of a meet and greet. There would be some public attendance. I'm not sure. I think we have to flesh that out a bit, Councillor. And I think that's the organized part here. And I should ask administration on the timeline too, so think about that as we're talking with amongst ourselves here.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to Councillor Natellenbos and then Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for bringing this forward. Just a quick question. Is the intent for this to just be a one-off meeting or down the road have recurring meetings?
I would love for it to be a recurring meeting, but I'd like to stumble through getting the first one done and then really evaluate the need or modify from there as we go. I think beyond this, there's probably need for some other forms of engagement within the community around, town halls or this or that or whatever that we haven't even supposed yet, and I think will come. But
perfect, thank you. And then just next question, I'm confident, obviously you being on council for quite some time, you're familiar with a lot of the developers and builders within Beaumont. Have you gotten any feedback from them in terms of their thoughts on something like this?
Limited sample size, but big thumbs up and can't wait to attend and happy to be there is what I've heard from a small sample size.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
You good? Councillor Murray, you good? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I remember years ago, this used to be a regular occurrence in a different format, maybe for a different reason, and always valuable for both council and the developers and stakeholders that were involved. So I'll definitely be supporting this motion. No more questions? Okay.
I'll just pose my question formally to administration. Does the first quarter of 2026 work for this? What is the timing? What does the timing look like? I know we're through budget now, and there's been a lot that comes out of that. So,
Ms. Raymond.
This is the olive branch.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. Appreciate the olive branch. We are, given all the workload, I would like a more flexible timeline where we could have some more options that would be available to administration to be able to look at the timing of what works for us. So if we could have till at least the end of Q2, and where we do that between Q1 to Q2 is up for discussion, not based on school season or wherever else, but
yep.
Yeah, if we could do that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, end of Q2 would be great, yeah. And I would also say to administration that if there are challenges encountered in this along the way, feel free to bring it back to council. And, I really want something like this to succeed, and I don't want it to die on the vine. So really want to be collaborative with all of you on this, so thank you.
Mayor, if we can confirm that council is okay with that amendment by changing the timeline.
Sure. Councillor Van Newkirk, can you look at the...
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Is the rest of council okay with supporting the motion as amended?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Did you have any closing remarks?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for the clarification on things. Appreciate it. All right, so we will go to a vote. And that was carried unanimously. Awesome. Thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Van Newkirk. Okay, the next one is Councillor Murray.
Thank you. That by the end of Q1 2026, administration provide a report on potential options for amendments to the land use bylaw that would provide greater oversight on complex development permits, including information on the following: amendments to any other planning documents, for example, the land use area structure plans that would need to be made to support these changes, and any potential risks that these changes might pose to the municipality. So this was my notice of motion from back in November, looking to just see how we might be able to make some changes to the land use bylaw before the full and complete review is complete. And just looking to get some more information on that in how to amend it in smaller ways for the land use bylaw so that we can still be working with it in a positive way until the complete changes to all of our plans that we have going on as we put forth with the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I appreciate you bringing this forward because this is something for sure that I know I've heard and many of us have heard as we were door knocking, talking to people about making some changes. As the public knows, doing the full revision of the land use bylaw or the MDP is quite a process. And so we want to be able to put some things in place to prevent, if I hear you correctly, prevent some of the things from happening that people were really not happy with, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, no, I just needed it as well. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Okay, I'm going to go to questions from other councillors, Councillor Hyde, and then Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I clarify just one thing. Are you looking for procedural clarification on this? Are you looking to see like how would we go about doing this type of an idea? Or are you looking for specific changes within these documents? It's very broad, what I'm seeing here. So, you know, it's not like we've actually brought something forward. It's just saying, how do we do this and how do we not get into trouble? So just putting in layman's terms sort of an idea. So you're looking at the procedurally wise, how would we go about doing this? Is that correct?
Yes, because when we've discussed it in November, there was going to be some challenges because the land use bylaw, you know, speaks to the municipal development plan. And so just putting forward certain changes with the land use bylaw, for example, limiting height in an apartment building, for example, may be a conflict with the MDP because our municipal development plan says that we, you know, are looking for 35 units per hectare. The mayor spoke to a lot of the density issues would be coming into that sort of question. So we left it broad in order to be able to find out how we might work alongside the plans that we do currently have.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure, clarify that. The only caution I have with that or with this motion is that the more we chip away at it, the longer it takes. So with the 3 units and 1 and 1 and 1, there was a lot of deliberation on that, and it took a lot longer to get to the entirety of the document. So this is my cause of getting the entire document done, and that would be my only thought on this. So procedurally, I have no problem with what you're asking for here. It's just, that's my only thoughts on it.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yes, similarly, for me, this motion was made prior to budget, prior to the funding of the land use bylaw and municipal development plan. Now, if this motion gave directions such as A, B, and C before the full land use bylaw and MDP are created, a list of 5 to 7 things, as Councillor Hyde said, that's what happened last term. And we ended up following that all down and through, and it usurped, you know, is there any ability to deal with 1, 2, or 3 issues, you know, perhaps a density target now, time and talk to each other, and if we start making changes in one now, how does that affect the other? So maybe even just if you could speak to density targets now, is that even possible, or do we know yet?
CAO.
Just going to say a couple words, and then Kendra, feel free to share your expertise. That's what I'm reading into this motion, is exploring whether there is those opportunities. Now, Kendra might know offhand whether there are, but I got a feeling it's more complex than that. So what I'm reading into this motion is go back, have a look. Is there some changes we could do? We heard density. We heard additional dwelling units. We've heard a few other themes. Can we tweak those without knocking the bigger review off its side? That's what I saw this coming back as, but Kendra, is that
well
what you're
stated?
hearing?
So if that was a question, that's my question.
All good. Love the help. You can come write some bylaws for me. I think Councillor Murray and I had spoken about this when just kind of considering some different options. I know that we talked a bit about what had been happening in Edmonton through their election and previous to that, and different things that could be done. My understanding of this motion was that we would be looking at how can we kind of maybe look at those complex, larger, high-density developments now, having a bit more oversight around them and not stopping all developments, but maybe providing a bit more regulation around them about how we make decisions, and being able to do that in a thoughtful way so that we're not continuing to, I guess, build more of what has been ongoing while we're going through the land use bylaw and the MDP, understanding that we do want to give that a very fulsome review, but there were concerns that I was hearing from Councillor Murray about the timelines that this project would take. So that was a discussion that we had. So I think that there are a couple of different ways that we could do that. One of them could be fairly simple in terms of breaking up our dwelling unit use class, which is where all of our residential buildings are. It is everything from one house all the way to an apartment building. So we can provide more different use categories and maybe make that one discretionary or something else, provide some options. I don't think that that's too complex. I don't think that that's going to put us really at odds with any of our other plans that we're going to need to go back and do. There might be some considerations that we'll provide through this report for council's consideration, so you're well informed when you make that, because that would be a bylaw amendment. I don't think it has to be very in-depth here. When you're looking at the density one, though, that one is, because there's many, many, many different ways to look at density. And we need council to have an informed discussion about that and be able to provide your thoughts back about how you want to deal with that. So I wouldn't recommend going down that density road through the MDP, because that will take us off course of the other project.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Off course is not where I want to be. The first half of that sounds reasonable and doesn't seem to put us in an either-or situation. And I definitely do not want to make a decision tonight that starts to usurp the bigger process of what has to happen here. So thank you for the attention to my questions.
I'm going to go to Councillor Natelabos next.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Question, I guess, for Ms. Raymond. I'm just looking for clarity as to what categorizes a permit as a complex development permit.
Complex development permits. Don't issue many development permits these days. Typically, those are more of your commercial, non-typical. They have their own process they kind of go through. They're more complicated. So you've got an apartment building. That would be an example of a complex permit, right through to a commercial-based building, those sorts of things, your large developments. Residential house is a non-complex permit. So that's the scale there. You're kind of looking at when you get into commercial, non-residential, and multifamily, you're getting into that complex permit.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colesmith and then Councillor Penrod.
I was going to ask the exact same question. So, good, thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Penrod and then Councillor Murray.
Thanks. I'll just add another clarifying question. Just curious, Councillor Murray, if in your conversations with the Planning and Development Department or with Ms. Raymond, if you've come to kind of an agreement on what greater oversight looks like. Is the language in this motion sufficient to get you what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm realizing that my green is showing as we're doing this discussion, because yes, I had a specific thought in my mind. I was looking to amend the land use bylaw originally to reduce, for example, my specific example was the height on apartment buildings, because then we get into more of the challenges that we've had in our very recent past experience where we're dealing with less parking availability in the case of Dansereau Landing, as well as the, I believe it's Esprit Apartments downtown, where that's also kind of competing with the skyline of the church on the hill, etc. So that was really my full sort of question, was that as the example. And so yes, after the discussion with Ms. Raymond, we decided to restructure the motion so that it would be broader, so that we could look at what Ms. Raymond had used as an example was allowing for a greater buffer, or a buffer to be used between single-family dwellings and apartment buildings, because perhaps we can't necessarily eliminate height or limit height restrictions. So we may have to still be able to work with that because of our MDP and, other area structure plans and things like that. So yes.
Thanks for the added clarity. So I guess a second question would be for Ms. Raymond, similar to the last question in the last motion posed to you. Is the timeline here Q1 2026? Does this seem doable? Again, I want to emphasize points already made around, I'm with the folks that the last thing we want is to kind of derail the more global look at the land use bylaw and the MDP that needs doing. Or would a Q2 be more reasonable if Councillor Murray, well, I don't want to suggest anything, I'm just asking the question, I guess. I guess the thing that I'm reflecting on is in the wrangling and on budget, to try to bring the property tax increase in line with all the competing needs. I know that one of the things that hit the cutting room floor was an additional staff to help out in planning and development. So this is more work for less folks.
All right. Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. I think when we're talking about this, as mentioned before, this was pre-budget. There was some of that discussion. I think if we're looking at the complex permits and different options that we could be considered, whether they're including height or different things, we can provide some options. I don't think that analysis will be too onerous, so we could probably still do that by Q1. Yeah, I think that one is probably okay right now, so Q1.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions from councillors? Okay, if you want to speak to closing there.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I know there's been some talk just in our discussion here, worrying about chipping away at the land use bylaw, as you had done in last year or in the last term. But if we're listening to residents and we remember some of the conflicts that we have had in recent development areas concerning some of the land use bylaw rules or open rules, I do think that it is a responsibility that we need to take on fairly soon to see if there is anything that we can do so that we can continue to work, because we all know that the work on the municipal development plan and land use bylaw and any future planning documents is not going to be done for potentially 2 years. So are we prepared to have any other issues with developments that are going in that time frame? And we might. So that's my concern in just waiting for a full review of the land use bylaw or a full completion of a brand new land use bylaw. So With that, I hope that you will support this motion and we can look at these potential options for our current municipal development plans and land use bylaw within the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I like the fact that it is just exploratory, that we're not necessarily committing to a course of action. It's giving us options that we could look into. So for that reason, I'll definitely be supporting it. So if there's no other questions or discussion, we're going to vote. And that passed, carried unanimously. Thank you for that robust discussion. Okay, we're going to move on here to business item 6.6. And this is Councillor Natellenbos.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that all future Chief Administrative Officer employment contracts include a requirement for public disclosure of the following. So to include total compensation, including base salary, benefits, and bonuses, if applicable, as well as contract terms, so start and end dates, and any renewal or extension provisions.
Would you like to speak to that?
Very briefly, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm just looking for transparency across the board. Obviously, as the manager of the city, I think residents should be entitled to know, especially on the contract term side, start and end dates as well as any renewals. And during the campaign period, it was very difficult to tell residents that we couldn't provide that information. And a lot of residents just had questions around why, how come we can't know? So I think it's just a simple correction in the existing contract. Again, it'll be new contracts going forward, but an easy way to fix a lack of transparency that currently exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillor Natellenbos, I think you already just spoke to my first question, which is why the need to go above and beyond what provincial legislation and regulation already requires. And thanks for speaking to that off the top. In your research, I know you always do your homework when you bring stuff forward. In your research, did you uncover any other municipalities that are doing this?
In my research, it was difficult to find a specific municipality. Obviously, AI has a lot to say, but in terms of concrete evidence, I couldn't find any other municipalities.
Okay, I don't know who I would pose this question to, potentially LLS. It's not meant as a rhetorical question. It comes around risk. So if we're making a change and if we're not clear that other folks are doing this, sometimes that means we're geniuses and we're like breaking ground and going in the right direction to other people will follow us on. Sometimes it means we're an outlier in the wrong way. And it's an open question for me. If we don't know that other folks are doing this. The question also occurs to me of, does it expose us to risk to mandate this? I've assumed because the motion has come forward in good order that it's been reviewed by LLS and that there's would be no legal issues with a motion like this.
Who would like to speak to that? Ms. Stargy.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod, through the Mayor. We have looked at this from a privacy perspective. If the individual signing the contract agrees to the term for it to be public, then it's allowed to be in public.
Yeah.
But they need to agree to it.
The only other, to my earlier point, the only other example that I could find of this was Cochrane, and in that case, it was actually came through a FOIP request, and in that case, the information was redacted, but it was the CAO himself who waived that and allowed more information than was required to be released, kind of as a gesture, understanding it was an issue in the community, and that was the direction that particular CEO took. So thanks for answering my questions. Thanks for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod, for stealing two of my questions. I guess a question for admin. I know Councillor Natellenbos said he wasn't able to identify any other municipalities that have done this, or are we aware of any other municipalities who have this level of transparency?
Ms. Dargy.
Thank you, Councillor Cole-Smith, through the mayor. No, we're not aware of anyone other than Cochrane.
And with Cochrane, are we aware of any negative repercussions that came from that?
Yeah, the CAO no longer is employed.
Bad for him, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you consider
But
negative?
as far as
Yeah.
the broader, looking at things from a broader context, as far as the municipality's ability to obtain another CAO or competitiveness.
That could be a consideration. They haven't been able to replace their CAO yet. That was just a recent separation. So I'm not sure what their success rate will be in recruiting another CAO if they're going to make that public. And that would be the same thing here. It may be difficult to find someone who would agree to this clause.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hyde, you're next.
Yeah, that's kind of my question in this too. Putting something like this in place always looks fantastic, but in a broader term, it makes it a little bit more difficult to recruit. If we're the outlier in this, and then we want to find, and I'm looking forward, not today, I'm looking for the next 10 or 20 years, recruiting a good CEO, and they come along with this and they go, well, you know what, I can get the same, and I don't have to disclose all this stuff. There's reasons that they don't want to disclose those types of things. I'm imagining, I'm not imagining, I know there is some kickback that a CEO will see, well, you're making this amount of money, why aren't you doing this, this, and the other thing? That we've already seen from our residents and those type of things. I'm thinking 10, 20 years down the road. I'm not thinking today. I'm wondering if there's some way we can find some sort of something in the middle to perhaps just have compensation for base salary, start and end date, and not have to disclose a whole bunch of other things. Just basically, this is what the CEO makes, which is already embedded in the CEO office budget. And the only other thing that you would add into that is the start and end of these, everything that has to do with the CEO's contract. I realize that this is an olive branch, throwing this out there, but I don't want to handcuff us in the future from again following up with a very good CEO because they don't want to sign this, and then we have to get into redactions, we have to get into them giving permissions, then we have to get into all these other things. I don't want to put us in that type of position going forward in the future. So I'm just wondering if we can't just come to an agreement somewhere in the middle here with base salary start and end date and try to leave some of that other contract negotiation stuff out of it. Is there some way we can meet there somewhere in the middle, Mr. Natellenbos or Councillor Natellenbos?
I appreciate that, Councillor Hyde. I think my concern is this also puts a little accountability on council as well. The fact that we're not throwing out these significant bonuses, and if we are, then obviously it's privy to the public to see. So I think it goes both ways. Again, we're talking down the road, but this is future contracts. And I think we should be held just as accountable as the CAO in sharing that information so that everyone knows what's going on. So at this point in time, I'd like to include all that because these will be decisions that council makes as well. And I want that to be public to everyone.
And through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, I understand exactly what you're doing is trying to make it transparent. However, no matter what happens here, no matter what the council decides on, whatever the base salary, whatever the benefits, we're still accountable. Doesn't matter whether all of this goes out to the public or not. We're still the ones making that decision because that's our only employee. So I'm just trying to make sure that we get the best possible employee out there without handcuffing us in any sort of way. So that's why I'm just trying to say, still our problem, no matter what. No matter what we say or what we don't say, it's still our problem. It's still us that makes the decision. I'm just trying not to handcuff us. So if I can meet somewhere in the middle saying, okay, I'm gonna put out your base salary and your start and end date, is that sufficient enough? Or do we have to put everything else out there? I just don't want to handcuff us for the future, that's all. And that's what I'm looking at. And it's still transparent because the base salary is there and the start and end date are there. If we want to give sort of something else in the meantime, as far as benefits or bonuses or something like that, that's still on us to decide that. And we should be held accountable for that, 100%. So I'm just trying to find a middle ground.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. We're going to go to Councillor Van Newkirk and then Councillor Cole-Smith again.
Yeah, so in your preamble, Councillor Natellenboss, I heard increased transparency as one of the rationale pieces for this. What do you envision the public will do with this information being more transparent and available? How does this help the public? What will they even do with this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of obviously information there. As no different than us putting our expenses forward, we're letting folks know where money's being spent. This is just another example where we're identifying a base salary, we're identifying the benefits and the bonuses. People have a good understanding of the budget, as we've seen through a lot of folks, some maybe not as much, but it's an opportunity for people to see what the actual cost is. Especially when we're questioned about it. The second part of it is contract term. I think that's critical. It holds CAO accountable as well as council. So in terms of the CAO, I think if they know that their contract is available and is public, that they'll be involved in the community and participate in the community and really show their value. Not saying that's not the case now, but I think it's another opportunity to even further emphasize that. In terms of the contract term for council, I think it's important as well that we are making these decisions, and it should be known to the public what decisions are being made in terms of those extensions, because again, this individual manages the city, and it's a big job. So I think we should be able to share that information without consequence.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. And you took one of my points away, is that council's the ones up here making the decisions with the information, not the residents. So, so if this information is out there and residents are using it to lobby someone because they don't like somebody, I don't think that's an efficient or good use of this information at all. I share some of Councillor Hyde's concern around future recruitment, because I'll be completely frank with you, if I had 2 or 3 job offers on the table and this was there and the others weren't, and I think Councillor Penrod put forward that the questions around who else is doing this, and the answer is nobody. I don't know, being the leader is here. Why would you put yourself to that level of scrutiny? These are the things I'm thinking about. My last question is, how does this make the community better? If we all agree that we're up here to make our community better, and the decisions we're talking about tonight on this agenda are community focused, the first few items that we had on this agenda tonight, I think, make our community better. Thank you for all those motions that we've talked about. How does this piece here make Beaumont better? Better place to live, better place to be. How does it make Beaumont better?
In short, better communication. We always talk about lack of communication, and it's a simple question. How long is my CAO representing my city? And my response is, I can't tell you, it's a secret. I don't think that's appropriate. So especially on the contract term, there's no reason to be hiding that from the community. So how does it make the community better or the city better? Because people are better informed.
Okay, and I did hear Councillor Hyde ask the question around, like right there, you honed in on the timeline and the contract piece. And I did hear the answer to the question around, thinking about this a little bit differently and maybe putting some start and end dates in there, but that was turned down at this point. So I'll stop my questions for there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. We go to Councillor Cole-Smith.
Sorry, some of the points were covered again. I know you weren't open to a friendly amendment, and I'm not sure procedurally, but am I allowed to ask that we divide the question into the compensation piece and the contract term piece so they can be discussed separately?
Thank you. Through the mayor, through to Councillor Cole-Smith. Yes, we could divide the question.
For the sake of expediency and clarity, I'd like to propose that we divide the question.
Like 2 different motions?
2 different motions.
2 different motions, so that would have to be... It's on the floor.
And if it makes life easier, I'm happy to support that if it comes from me as opposed to Councillor Cole-Smith. But
Yeah.
So is that what you want to do? Yeah, you okay with that? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to separate it into 1 and 2. Two separate motions. Would I hear that change? Did you need Councillor Natellenbos to read again? Okay. Okay.
I move that all future CAO employment contracts include a requirement for public disclosure of the following: total compensation, including base salary, benefits, bonuses. I'll speak to that really quick. I don't know that there will be much potentially debate around this, but reason I'm putting this forward is, again, for transparency. These numbers are available. If we look on the financial side of things, this would just provide a quicker avenue to a simple question: is what's the compensation for one of the most significant roles within our organization? So for that reason, I'm putting that forward. I know there were some comments made. Hypothetically, there could be some consequences. Yes, we may be one of the first municipalities to put our foot forward and offer this transparency, but that's not to say that's not a positive thing either.
Thank you, Councillor Natellenbos. I just want to ask a question to legal. Is this information FOIPable?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. With regards to the compensation for the salary, that is already disclosed in the audited financial statements, and maybe our friends in finance can just confirm that's where it shows up, but it is included in that, as it is legislated to be released.
Okay. So it's not like we're not asking for something that is potentially available anyway through other means. Okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Hyde and then Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, just, you know, I've already expressed my concerns around here, but I have one other concern too, is the rabbit hole that we're going down here. We only have one employee, and that's the CEO, and I understand that. But as soon as you start disclosing salaries and contracts, the next question you get is, well, how much is that person making? Or how much is that person making? How much is that person making? And we're not able, of course, to even be privy to that ourselves. But this is the rabbit hole it starts to go down is, well, how much is the deputy CEO making? How much is this person making? How much is that person making? And now people are being judged by how much they're making as opposed to the position that they're doing. So we have to be very careful what rabbit hole we want to go down with this. This is all about transparency. I totally understand it. I want to be transparent too. But just caution here, big yellow flag that I have going up, not a red one, but just a yellow flag saying, when you start going down this rabbit hole of putting people's salaries up, you start getting people judging people by, well, I make $60,000 a year and this makes $100,000 a year. How come? And they probably do half the work. You're going to get that, and that's what's going to happen out of this, I believe. So to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk's statements here, how does this make Beaumont better when we start to have these type of discussions? It's very difficult for me, even though I am all for transparency. I have to be wary of the caution around something like this. It's going forward for the next 10 or 20 years. That's what I'm always looking at. And where does this lead us? So that's just my last statement on that.
Perfect. And just to quickly speak to that, as you focused on salary and as mentioned by administration, that's already a public figure through the financials. So there would be no concern based on that.
Okay, I'm going to move on and give the other councillors an opportunity here. So we're going to go to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, Penrod, and then Murray.
Yeah, I think you just answered my question, Councillor Natellenboss, is why are we bothering with this motion when it's already part of the financial reporting? So I'll make that statement. Just looking to administration, where right now in the budget is it disclosed that, you know, the base salary benefit bonuses, there's a lump in there that says what that total comp is. Just looking for that. I'm not certain why we're putting forward a motion to get information that already exists. So if we can learn where that information exists, then we probably don't have to have a motion here.
A good example is if we can't find it ourselves, then we should probably make it more accessible.
Thanks, Councillor. The question is for administration.
All right, number 6, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Van Newkirk. So it is not in the budget itemized as an individual piece, but it is disclosed in the financial statements under the salaries and benefit disclosure, where we have all of the mayor and councillors, and then administration has the CAO office, and designated officers are grouped together. So the CAO salary for the past year is disclosed, but it is not itemized in the budget in the current year or forward years.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, just trying to be crystal clear here. We've established this information is already available. Are you asking that it be broken out further into specifically base salary and benefits? As I understand it, those things are rolled up in the current reporting. And maybe Mr. Bohachuk could confirm that.
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So in the financial statements, we disclose the salary and the benefits, and we, to my knowledge, there are no bonuses.
And sorry, I just don't recall from memory, are those two communicated separately, or are they rolled
so
into-
they are
so
separate
Thank you.
columns in the financial statements that already indicate that, yes.
And under the legislation, if there was a bonus in place, I'm not aware of any that exist again, in my research across Alberta. Does the legislation cover that? Would they be disclosed if they existed?
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, I don't know. I would guess probably as part of financial statements, you would report all compensation, but I couldn't speak specifically if there's legislation around bonuses itself.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I think this motion in particular does speak to some of the concerns that a lot of residents had in the last few years. There's a lot of people discussing, the administration when we were on the campaign trail, and specifically a lot of the chief administrative officer. So I do think it, as we discussed, it comes out in documentation for the, past year. I don't really think it's that much of a damage for us to have this sort of information available to those who would seek it out for the current year. So that's my piece on it.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. We're going to go to Councillor Colesmith.
Thank you, Mayor. I think a good point was made earlier about council being accountable, and the not being able to disclose start and end dates is a big hindrance. That's why I asked to split that motion. So with a mind to who's accountable for what, council is already accountable for the budget, and this is rolled up into that. There is, I understand it's not broken out to the granular detail, but there is the CAO office within the budget. And I feel like the start and end date might be sufficient, or at least a good start, to show accountability and who put the person in place and who may have renewed a contract. I guess I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk, did you have something more to add, or should we? Yeah, okay. And then we're going to go for a vote.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, the last piece I just want to point out here is that council's in charge of the hiring process for a CAO and any and all of the negotiations that go along with it. So what we vote on here tonight may not matter anyways. If you get in through to a hiring process and perhaps this term becomes one of the things between council and the community and a great hire, there will be a vote among council at that time, around that, if everything comes down to this. So the way I see it is this conversation is moot here tonight because council is in charge of a negotiating process with the one employee we have, which is a CAO. If there's a negotiation that has to involve, it has to be completed as part of that hiring process, and this becomes the piece. There's a vote anyway, so among council, and that the chips will lie where they will at that point. So just want to really make that point clear to council. So if we think that we're doing something by putting something forward that's more transparent, I support transparency, but it may not matter anyways. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. Did you want to speak to the closing statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate what Councillor Van Newkirk had said there. It may be correct. It may be a negotiating term that needs to change. However, it'll be part of the standard contract template. So at least we're taking that initiative to get that in place. I just really want to emphasize, I'm the kind of guy that wants to take one road to get to the answer, not 10 different roads. So why not make it simple and easy to access? That's all I'm asking for, and I hope council supports me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tellenbos. Okay, we will vote. And that passed.
Mayor, did you want me to read out the vote?
It passed, opposed, Van Newkirk, Hyde, and Penrod. And then we're going to go on to the next one, and then after this one, we're going to take a break. Just because they're part of the same, so we'll just put in the same one. We'll have Councillor Tellenbos read out this second one that we broke apart here.
Thank you. Would you like me to add more context? So I move, this is a second motion, that all future chief administrative officer employment contracts include a requirement for public disclosure of the following: contract term, which includes start and end dates, and any renewal or extension provisions.
Would you like to speak to that, or have you?
I think I've spoken enough. Thank you, Mayor.
Any comments, questions that you haven't already addressed, or not to shut anyone down, but I just want to make sure that we're concise and okay. No further discussion. We will vote. Did you want to speak to it before we? No? Okay, we will vote. And that was passed. Is that sufficient? Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute break. We are back. I just want to say, first of all, apologies for the miscommunication out there that it was started at 6 o'clock. We originally were going to start at 6, and then it got moved to 5, and unfortunately that wasn't transferred in the public communication, so my apologies for any mix-up that caused anyone or inconvenience. So we're going to continue on here with our meeting, and we are currently at 6.7. Motion 6.7. There's a lot on there when I first made this notice of motion. Pardon? All right, so this motion is that by the end of Q1 2026, administration provide a report on the primary objectives for the municipality's participation in the Partners in Climate Protection Program, including information in the following: overview of the program, program milestones and current status that the municipality has achieved and milestones that they're on, costs of staffing, other related resources related to participate in the program, any grants, funding, cost-sharing benefits realized from participation in the program, any other resulting measurable outcomes or benefits, whether the program aligns with or duplicates Alberta's existing environmental municipal requirements, and any implications on the city's ability to independently meet any provincial standards if the city withdraws from the program. I realize there's a lot on there, but why I'm bringing forth this motion is because I realized that there are, back in 2015, that Beaumont did opt into a optional program. It is free to opt into the Partners in Climate Protection. At that point, they didn't do anything up until 2021 when it was re-engaged, and now it is part and parcel of our environmental master plan as far as the 5 milestones. And the concern I have, and I just want to do my due diligence to find out how much it is embedded, because what I am discovering from other municipalities that have gone down this track, even though it is free to join, that it's actually cost them millions of dollars to reach these required milestones that have nothing to do with their local situation, and they're not mandated by the province, not mandated by the federal government. It's just an independent international organization that they're following requirements for. So I know Lethbridge is one of those municipalities that opted out when they found that for them to reach the next milestone, it would cost them $83 million, which they didn't have. But when they did a deep dive evaluation, they realized that 75% of that, so 63 million of that would go outside the community. So they eventually opted out and just now focus on their own environmental stewardship plan, which I believe is important for us based on the fact that we have a lot of needs locally that we need to focus on and that we can achieve the same goals. So this motion is really to find out where we're at as a city, as a municipality, what is our involvement, how far down the track we've gone, and whether or not it's time for us to just opt out and reallocate that focus to local priorities. Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, I definitely support this motion. I would just like to add perhaps maybe a community engagement portion of this. So the ability to have maybe a census done or something through comms regarding this program, so that people understand what we're trying to achieve or not trying to achieve in this. And if the public is on board with this, then I think that would just help and go a long ways to be asking the public about it as well. So if we can add something to that effect of the possibility to add some sort of a survey with the general public around this program, that would go a long ways, I think.
Okay, so this motion is just to gather the information. Mm-hmm. Are you suggesting to engage the public for that purpose only? Like this is an administration task?
Yeah, just what would that look like as an administration point? Just saying administration to review the possibility to address this concern with the public.
Okay.
So on that side, they would have that prepared and we wouldn't have to go that extra step later on. Like they would have that already. We would just add it as another point in here.
Okay.
Is that a possibility?
Who are we speaking to on that?
Maybe Ms. Winters? Are we able to add a public engagement portion to this just at the bottom, just to see what that looks like from an administration point of view?
I'm almost thinking that might be a secondary.
Or is it a secondary thing later
Yeah.
after we get this? I'm just trying to kill all the birds with one stone. if you don't want to, you don't have to take it if you don't.
No, I don't see it as aligned with this. It's more, we just want to know how far down the path we are and what resources is it taking from us that we maybe more responsibly need to allocate locally. That's my question.
Okay.
In getting this information. Whether or not the finances or the time and focus from staff is enough that say, you know what, we don't need to do that. We need to reallocate that over here so that we can focus on our local priorities.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. Like I said, I support this motion wholly. I'm just asking to say, do we need to have a public engagement portion to it? That's all I'm saying. Just to have the public awareness more than anything.
Yeah,
That's it.
I mean, I agree with public engagement. I'm just not sure how that fits into the obtaining of the information from administration. But
Okay.
tell me if I'm missing something, and who am I going to? Ms. O'Neill?
Thank you. I'll provide a through the mayor to Councillor Hyde and actually to the mayor. Just for this motion, the report would, in a nutshell, basically say we haven't been working on the Partners in Climate Protection program. We did enroll in the program in 2015, I believe, but the city has not been taking any steps towards that program. I can't speak to the individual milestones, but I think it would affect Councillor Hyde's motion around community engagement. We have not done any work on this program. Instead, administration has been focused on the environmental master plan, which did go through community engagement previously. I don't know if that helps your discussion here, but there's been no.
Yeah,
work
it
on the
definitely helps
program.
because we've already had this kind of discussion around environmental action. So there's not really a need to go back towards that. But it would be nice to know the results of those. I don't know what the current results were from that survey. So if we have that to share with council, that would be fantastic too. If we had something like that, that would certainly help us out.
Just to speak to that, Ms. O'Neill, because part of my research was that in the environmental master plan, at numerous places, it actually says fulfill the requirements of the PCP.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. In the environmental master plan, yes, it is embedded in there, the PCP is, but we have not taken any of those actions as of yet.
Okay, so the framework is part of the EMP, but it really hasn't been followed.
Correct. The city has not re-engaged with that program.
Okay, so I guess that's another question. Go ahead, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I've heard very little about this, but from those I have heard it from are passionate around this, and Mayor, you and I have chatted about this in the past on the campaign trail. But for me, being mindful of administration's time and required reporting, if we're doing nothing, it costs nothing. And if we're doing work that doesn't focus this and remove the references to it. What I don't want to see happen here, and I'm going back to this theme of, in my tenure, I was trying to recall if I'd ever heard it, and I just heard why I hadn't is because there's been no work done toward it, right? So if we haven't done work, I think administration would bring it back and discuss it. But for me, it's on
Thank
this
you.
one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it because the follow-up information, we'll have this in a moment, but I'll go to Councillor Penrod first.
Thanks, Mayor. Generally not opposed to your opening statements, spoke well to that. I appreciate that. You mentioned some of the research you've been doing.
Yeah, and you're familiar with some of that stuff in terms of the Braun Consulting and being used. A lot of municipalities there, but then I did a deep dive in the environmental master plan, and I saw, because it's in a lot of line items, fulfill the requirements.
Yeah, thank you. And having conversations, and I think it's germane in this case that some of what you're referencing is the work of, so appreciate you just making that clear. And then my other spending are benefiting the community, but given the answer we already got, this motion is successful.
But it can be complete by the end of Q1 2026.
Yeah, thank you.
Already know, which is we haven't done really much with this. Why wouldn't we just shelf this and look at it for future considerations? as opposed to even just going down this path.
That's my objective, is to see whether or not this is really, but this is the first time I've heard that we are actually not following it. There's no association in going back later. We can always review it, but based on what I've seen, and my objective in this is so that we're serving the residents of Beaumont well, and so I'm thinking if there's money going.
It's entirely up to you how you want to reword this motion and such like that, obviously, but
Thank you. I'll say it politely, but you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. I appreciate I see the intent here. We'll support this 100%. I'd like to keep this motion forward so that we get all the information and then we can make the next decision is, do we can.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill.
Thank you. I would like to propose to bring that to council, but that would be a great opportunity for you to start by the end of Q1 2026. Thank you.
All right, so what I'm hearing is that we can go forward with this one because some councillors would like to have this information. Okay. All right, so if there's no other discussion. And that carried you, but we're asking questions for clarity's sake. 2026, budget deliberations, subsequent motions. And I'll look to you, Ms. Winter. And this one is Councillor Murray. We're going back and forth.
Thank you, Mayor. That by the end of Q2 2026, a comprehensive review of Council Policy FIN-16-01, Childcare Deficit Fund with the province, and that administration provide information on potential internal efficiencies, partnerships, outsourcing, cost recovery approaches, and an exit strategy or maintaining the status quo. So this motion I've put forward, just looking to funding policy in place and where we can see if there is a way to make sure that we're getting for sure all of the grant money from families with children in childcare services that comes through the government of Alberta. And it's necessary here at the City of Beaumont, and see if we can eliminate some of the funding or some of the deaf and the early learning center. So yeah, hopefully you can support this motion.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a little niggling typo. I think in the motion as submitted was the piece that stood out for me. And my last statement stands. I'm rarely opposed to requests for information to be brought forward so that council can new information or reminded of the policy that exists it was communicated to us in a different way than I recall, so I'd be happy to receive this report.
Thank you. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk and then Councillor Netelenbos.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this motion. I'd be pleased with plans and childcare and agreements and life and logistics that go along with anything that could be as a perceived outcome of this. So I just want to make sure that I've said that out loud and clear for council and the public to know. I've staff and amongst parents that was brought forward by this type of a report. So that said, I'll support this request for information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. Councillor Netelenbos.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess just looking for a little clarity from administration. I'm not exactly sure who, but would I be able to get a little clarity as to how this would be different from the Child Care Services business plan that we were provided in November 2023? I just want to know, is it going to be a duplication of a lot of the information and therefore maybe not the best use of time, or is it going to be a completely different report that provides alternate information?
Who's speaking? Go ahead.
Thanks for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Netelenbos. Yes, obviously there would be some duplication in there, but I think the landscape continues to change and evolve in this space. And I think even from an administration's perspective, I think it's important to always look at everything that we do, and this is no different in my mind. But yes, there would be obviously some similar things, but even the agreements with the province now, that's likely to change again in the new year. So the landscape continues to change. So it may seem like a repeat, but really going to be kind of a combination of new information as well as repetitive things. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And we keep talking about capacity. Just want to confirm that this is something that isn't too cumbersome, that you and your team would be able to put together in a reasonable amount of time?
Thanks for the question again, through the mayor to Councilor Tellenboss. No, when we looked at this, I mean, the motion basically kind of spells out what areas we'd be looking at, and which is very similar, like I mentioned earlier, to what was done in the past. So therefore, you pick up from there, and you kind of almost, I don't want to say it's a template, but we sort of have a blueprint here to follow. So end of Q2 is a reasonable time frame for us to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suter. Thank you. Any other discussion on this? I think it's important to get this, even to echo what Mr. Suter said in terms of Beaumont is growing. I think it's important that we always have a pulse on what's happening and changes that maybe need to be made based on our changing community as well as the needs of our community and changing demographics. So I will definitely support this. Would you like to speak to the closing?
Yes, thank you. I just, this, of course, is a very sensitive subject, as Councillor Van Nieuwkerk has brought up. But this is really an attempt to really figure out and get all of the information and then be able to possibly move in a direction where we're experiencing less of a deficit. And that's my ultimate goal here. So hopefully everyone will be able to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Okay, we'll go to a vote right now. And that was carried unanimously. All right, so now we'll move on to our next one. And I think Councillor Murray, you're up again.
Thank you, Mayor. That administration amend the current service levels, Schedule B2, roadway snow plowing and removal, Priority 1, to provide for snow plowing and removal to occur after 10 centimeters of snow accumulation or equivalent snow drift. And my concern with the snow removal comes in light of the budget deliberations and where we're experiencing a lot of challenges in keeping up with the current snow level removals anyways, as well as the cost that comes with providing that level of service. I did look to a lot of municipalities to see what they are doing, and as in our previous report, we're really at the top in terms of getting out there a little sooner than some of the other neighbors and communities that are about the same size. So I'm just looking to see if we can make some changes that might help with what our crew is already doing in terms of workload. As well, I think that reducing this amount of, or the frequency, because it certainly will affect the frequency, may also allow more time for our crew members to be able to communicate more effectively with other departments and that sort of thing, and create some more efficiencies within the infrastructure department.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, I have a question.
Yeah, comment and a question. It feels to me like snow removal policies are outdated as a whole. And the reason I say that is because we don't get typical winters anymore. We get a lot, we get warming, we get little, we get rain, we get melt, and we, as a group of people in Beaumont, to wait for 10 centimeters to go, the amount of concerns that I've had with people with ruts and alleys is a lot. And imagine if that was our main streets, because 10 centimeters is quite a bit. And that swallows up a lot of little cars if we get a warming event and people start dropping through a 10 centimeter snowpack. So I don't think this is one I support for those reasons. I agree with the spirit of what you're trying to bring forward here and trying to figure out ways to, we're not doing the best anyways, so what does a little bit less matter? I think the little bit less matters here just in that snowpack and, a weekend of 5 degrees with salt falling off people's vehicles as they bounce down the roads, 5 degrees hits, and we're sinking in ruts in the middle of our roads. I think that's a really real reality given the way that we get winter and the way weather is presenting itself at these days. So that, so I won't support it for those reasons, but I support the spirit of why you're trying to bring this forward. So thank you.
Just to clarify to the mayor Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, our current service levels state 5 centimeters of accumulation and not snowpack. And as you sort of stated, weather is one of these things that we don't often just get straight 10 centimeters accumulation. And the pack may be, very different. A lot of other communities are going and waiting until it actually says pack, and which could be a lot more snow than 10 centimeters of accumulation, just to clarify that.
Yeah,
everyone.
you betcha. Yeah, for me, it's a change that we had one change to what we were doing, or a perceived change to what we were doing a week ago, and our email on council lit up like a light on the top of a municipal enforcement vehicle. So I can only imagine what this would bring. So thank you.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Hyde. Councillor CEO, did you have something to add to that, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind council that we have presented, as part of the service level review, a jurisdictional scan of how we're doing snow removal, and that we're going to be amending our policy. So we're going to look at how we can save costs, how we can look at the different weather patterns, how our community is growing. Do we use salt more? Do we use sand more? So that type of service level review will come back to council in Q2 of 2026.
Go ahead, Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, through the mayor, to the CEO for the clarification on that, how we are looking, to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk's not wanting to age myself in any sort of way, but, I remember playing on snowbanks in Cold Lake, and I think Councillor Murray feels the same way, that we had snowbanks way back when. What the heck's the difference now? But it is different now, and the snowpack is different, and the ice is different, and everything has changed in the last 10 years. Well, okay, 40. But when you think about it, it has changed a lot, and our climate is different, and really our biggest issues is the melting and thawing of the ice, and that's why during budget deliberations I had brought up blading and some things like that about ruts and those type of things. So in my opinion, does this change a lot? I don't know how this affects, if we put something like this into place, how this affects administration going forward with how their planning is going to be doing, or is it better to wait for that planning to be done and then revisit it after that? Like, can administration speak to that? Would they rather have the time to work with that before we put something like this through?
Member 17, sorry, there you go. Go ahead, Mr. Lewicki.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde. Yeah, as CEO Swartz had mentioned, we're going to bring back a report that identifies some opportunities for improvements. I think it would be prudent to look at that before we made any changes to current service levels. I mean, I can speak to what the impacts of this might be. I mean, we would be looking at significantly more snow buildup on P1 routes, which would lead to snow pack and rutting. Once that snow pack and ice buildup accumulates on the road, it's very hard to get off. This obviously creates hazardous conditions for arterial routes which have higher traffic, higher speeds than other roads throughout the city, leading to potentially more accidents and so on. And once that ice buildup is on the road, it's not very easy to peel it off. Sometimes we can't. And so that just causes more problems. The other factors that we look at are emergency vehicles routinely use those routes, and we want to make sure that emergency vehicles in transit are making their routes in the time that they need and not being delayed by further snow accumulation on the roadways. Now, it's possible that there might be some cost savings resulting from less deployments, but the amount of time during each deployment would be increased because of the extra effort to clear more snow, especially if we start getting accumulation onto the road surface on the P1 routes. It could take significantly more time. So the cost savings would be probably minimal, if anything, and then you'd also be seeing the disruptions and potential traffic issues.
Thank you, Mr. Lewicki. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because that was one of the questions I had in terms of, and what I heard you saying is that it could actually cause more trouble if we let it go too long. So I'm wondering, would you be willing to, you know, it's totally up to you, given the fact that we're going to get a report, and I believe they're also going to get I believe there's a review, am I not mistaken, Ms. O'Neill, a review of a bylaw coming up here. Is that in Q1, Q2, in terms of the snow plow?
Thank you. Yes, Mayor, we are hoping to bring a proposed new policy to council in Q2. We would like to bring it to a committee of the whole meeting first so we can get some feedback. And then we would bring the formalized draft policy to council for your consideration. We want to clean up the language that's in there, make it simpler. Councillor Murray, absolutely snowpack versus snow accumulation, centimeters here, centimeters there. It is confusing, so we would like to bring that to council in Q2.
Okay, thank you. So I'm wondering with that, Councillor Murray, if it's worth waiting to kind of see how this plays out this winter and then get that other information that we can be better informed. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, definitely. In light of what Mr. Lewicki has mentioned, I'm not adverse to just removing this if that's what, you know, if that is really what's best. Again, my intention wasn't to make any problems or create something worse. It's more about thinking about where we can make some efficiencies was my goal. So where you have sort of chimed in and said, you know, that can be more difficult, then I think perhaps maybe that is something that we should just wait on and look at the full report as it's supposed to be coming. My only concern is that that's after the entire winter is over in Q2, so.
Did you want to add something to that, Councillor Colesmith?
If we're withdrawing the motion,
Not?
yeah.
Okay, that's totally up to you.
Yeah, I think I'm okay to just withdraw that then.
As long as I can have consensus from council to withdraw the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we learned some things in the process as well, right? It's always a learning experience. So let's keep going here. We got a lot to go through tonight. So thank you for that, Councillor Murray. Appreciate that. I think we'll gain a lot more from these other reports as well. So next one is you as well, Councillor Murray. You've been busy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That by the end of Q2 2026, administration provide a report to council that includes a comparison and analysis of Beaumont's planning fees listed in the Schedule A of the Fees and Charges Bylaw, Section A, Planning Fees, with those of the City of Leduc, Fort Saskatchewan, Spruce Grove, and Edmonton, and identify any potential new planning fees as well. So during our budget deliberations, we did bring up the fees and charges bylaw. When I was going through that, there's some very different charges, and what I was really specifically looking to capture were the big planning developments that initiate land use amendments. And those fees in Edmonton specifically are triple what we're charging, and where those types of amendments to land use involve more administrative time, and where that also would give us perhaps a little bit more control. I think that it would be wise for us to look at these fees and charges, see if maybe we might amend those to perhaps discourage some of those types of changes to the land use bylaw amendments more specifically. So again, this is not about fees and charges for permits for a homeowner. This is more specifically for developers who are looking to make changes that do have to involve a land use bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. So just a quick question. How does this relate to a motion that we had during the budget deliberations when we made some changes to some of those fees? Is this the same document? I don't have it all in front of me.
It is the exact same document. That none of those fees were listed as changed. No, sorry, that's a mistake. Delete that. Some of those had been changed and modified just by, I believe they went from 6,000 to 6,400, something like that. But again, in comparison to specifically Edmonton, their fees in the one example where we were charging $6,400, they are charging $24,000.
That's considerable.
So just something to look at, really consider. I think that because of our land use bylaw and some of that very flexible terminology that we've used within that document, I don't think it's a bad idea to look at this and consider maybe putting in like that idea of a bit of a stopgap. Probably won't work, or just having a little bit more funding, because it will be involving more administrative time.
Thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Penrod and Cole Smith.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely understand the intent of this and support the data table creation. I just want to put out one, I guess, point is that when this information set is gathered, what is going to be unknown or maybe not easily found out is scenarios where some fees or categories might have been adjusted on purpose. A good example of that is a good idea Councillor Natellenboss had in a previous budget to, on purpose, adjust some fees in a certain area to support the inclusion of a new position. So we did that in Beaumont. So if we start to see discrepancies in fees and other reasons, or discrepancies in fees in other regions, we may not understand the reasons for some of those discrepancies. So if that makes sense. So there may be scenarios where these fees were elevated for a purpose that we may not know, and we'll be comparing ourselves to a scenario that might not be directly comparable. Just, that doesn't mean I don't support this. I'm just putting it out there that that could happen. So,
Thank you. Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, further to that point, so I see your motion actually contemplates that, because you've asked not just for, Councillor Murray, you've asked not just for the raw fees, but also some analysis. And so that begs the next question, which is how much time and effort goes into this? I guess the first question I want to start with is, we're producing our fees schedule every year anyway for budget. Q2 2026 sounds like the time when, well, probably budget work never stops, if I look at Mr. Bohachuk. This would seem to fit in kind of the period where budget really starts to heat up and you start doing the work of preparing budget 2027 around that timeline. So is this work that's already happening? Is a short way to ask the question.
I think, CAO, are you going to speak
Sure,
first?
yeah. I was going to start exactly along those lines, and we're sending chats back and forth here around capacity and the ability to get this done at the end of Q2. Yes, by then, budget work is starting, but this is a significant amount of analysis. And what we're want to push back is that we don't have the resources to get it done by the end of Q2. If you would be amenable to it, we could, that wasn't even the right word, doesn't matter, it's late. What we would prefer or recommend is that we bring this data back as part of the 2027 fees and charges presentation and part of the budget. If you'd still like to do it out of scope, and that's fine, we'd probably be looking at a budget of about 15,000 that we'd have to approve to get somebody to do this for us. Jay, did you want to add anything, Kendra?
Number 6, is that you? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So I'd agree that we would do the work through budget process normally, but to expedite this would cost money. But it may be, again, I'm always adverse to try to spending money that we don't need to spend, but it could be informative and allow us to make proactive changes coming up to the budget. Right, so if we already know that, we do this analysis by the end of Q2 and we get some clear direction that we really want to adjust these fees, rather than that late game guessing at the end of how much the impact of a rate fee change could be at the very end of the budget process, which carries more risk, that we would have direction and clarity on getting some analysis done. So that would still require effort and resources in order to provide that work, but there could be a value in having more accurate revenue projections based on what we're thinking in advance, so that there would be a pro of that.
Thank you, Jay. Ms. Raymond, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I'll just, thank you, Mayor. As part of the fee review, not the fee review, but the service review, we did calibrate the fees and looked at costs for service and how we could be cost recoverable for some fees, but incentivize compliance on others. As part of that, and in the past, we do benchmark against the neighbors to see how we are performing in alignment with that. There is not, I guess there's not clear direction right now on where those fees should actually benchmark in terms of council's compensation philosophy. And how you would like fees to be cost recoverable through that service area. So that is something where, we'd be looking at that, but if Edmonton is number one, which I can tell you they are the most expensive in the region, but they offer a hugely different service level than the city of Beaumont does or can. Their staffing complement is much larger and a variety of other things, so their services are a lot quicker. They're doing automated building inspections. There is value for money there from somebody paying that fee. But we can provide that, give this. I do agree with Mr. Bahachuk that this is relevant information for the fees and charges, for helping us set for budget, for discussion, also for awareness for the building community as they go through their performance and understand what those costs will be to do business here in Beaumont, because that's a decision, an investment decision. So we can do that, but we just can't get it done by the end of Q2 2026 with available resources that we have right now in order to be able to do justice to everything else that is on our plate.
Thank you, each of you, for chiming in on that. So I'm coming back to you now, Councillor Murray, because what I hear you saying is it's something that would be valuable for the next budget preparation, to have this information to be able to do some proposal of fees. And I'm wondering if we need to kind of push it a little later in the year in order to dovetail onto that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to allow that information to come in at whatever Q3 or budget process. My understanding was that it would, but this was a week ago or whatever when we discussed it, so things change. So yeah, I think in the year, I'm fine with changing that to whatever the timeline might be to follow with, hopefully a little sooner than the budget, just for the information purposes, and then as well to affect.
When we say that we would like more time and bring that as for discussion on the fees and charges for 2027, that doesn't mean that we'll deprioritize this and never get it done till the very end of the year. So as our time allows and stuff like that. So where we prioritize it, I guess, is, thank you, drag it.
But it's helpful to know that it's something that will be valuable to the process, and if we don't have to spend the extra money to get it done sooner, then I'm all.
Should we then change it to Q3 or change it? Is that the better wording for it? That's what we need?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, so that by the end of Q3, I think that would be good, acceptable for me.
Okay, did you want to speak to that, Councillor Cole-Smith, and then Councillor Talonbos?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Well, I did hear them would be the specific list of municipalities here is the rationale behind restricting it to those specific municipalities.
Those were the cities that were, that we normally compare to as per our meeting with Ms. Raymond and Ms. Winters.
Fair enough.
Do you think we should amend that to have a different city on there as well?
I would perhaps propose a friendly amendment and other municipality that seems appropriate or something of that nature, just open-ended a little bit.
Okay, yeah, so if we want to just
Including, you could just say maybe with those of municipalities like.
Or comparable.
Yeah, comparable, so that you leave it open-ended? No. Ms. Raymond says no.
Sorry, thank you, through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith. Leaving it open-ended means that we're not going to know exactly what you're looking for, and if I propose something that I think is a comparable municipality and you don't, I will have given you the wrong information that you're not seeking. I think that when we're looking at that, it could be population, it could be growth, it could be similar proximity, say, to a major center. So we could compare ourselves to Airdrie, to Cochrane, to Okotoks. I would not recommend Strathcona County, also similar. Edmonton, typically we would not compare to, but it's a good example, right? It's always good to know that one, but Strathcona County is a different example. Leduc County is also a rural municipality, not a great comparator. And then Stony Plain also doesn't see the same amount of development that we do. So if we're gonna go with another comparator, we can propose those, but we would maybe like some parameters around what would that be? Is that growth, proximity to a major center, all of the above? Looking at similar rates of development. That's why we've included Spruce Grove, Leduc, and Fort Saskatchewan, because they're very similar municipalities to us within the region and are direct competitors for business.
Fair enough. Hearing there's some thought and logic that went into this, and open-ending it would not be beneficial. Withdraw that comment.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Tellenboss.
Thank you, Mayor. Just looking for clarity around costing. Will there be a cost associated with this, with us moving this forward closer to budget time? And I mean, as mentioned, I think Ms. Raymond said, we kind of already do this. This will just be a little more in-depth. Will there be a cost associated with it?
CEO Schwartz, go ahead.
Yeah, just as reported, no, this will be part of the preparations for the 2027 budget.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Penrod, and then Hyde, and then we'll probably vote.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, thanks. I always turn my microphone off too quick. Just reflecting on some of the information that we got during the budget workshops and deliberations. One thing that stands out from Mr. Bohachuk's presentation is that it's hard to find a good comparator for Beaumont in a lot of these situations because of our rapid growth. There's several sort of factors because of our split in, residential versus commercial assessment, and lots of things that just kind of make Beaumont a bit of a unicorn. And so then I tweaked in on a comment I think that Ms. Raymond made just around a fees rationale philosophy, and I might be paraphrasing that incorrectly, but that's kind of what I took away from it. I recall doing some of that work as a part of our compensation review that we do annually, and that was a recommended piece. I guess I'd like to hear, this seems like it would be annual work, but what we're missing is that rationale or that philosophy that guides the annual work. And what I'm wondering about now is if it would where would that type of work fit? Is it contemplated? Is it coming? Do you need direction from council to do that work?
Who would like to speak
Does
to
it
that?
fit? I guess the other thing that I wondered is, it doesn't seem like it would be a natural fit in the MDP and LUB work, but maybe it is, if you could speak to that.
Mr. Bohachek, is that?
Thank you. Through the Mayor to Councilor Penrod. The timing of this conversation is particularly relevant as we've been having some conversations administratively about how do you justify and benefit or defend your fee structure and what the guiding principles are around it. And so we're having some philosophical conversations, some work's happening on administration side to try to distill that down into a sentence or two or a guiding principle or philosophy to help educate why we do what we do and the considerations that we look into when we're coming up with the fee schedule and what's fair and equitable and all sorts of other considerations. So we're working on that. I don't know that we've landed on we don't have a guiding principle statement formatted yet, but we're working on that, and we could probably come back later in, if we said Q2, as like maybe preface or come along even with this of the methodology that administration adopts or embraces as we're working on our fee schedule, not just for planning, but for all of the charges that we do. And then that could be part of the conversation in advance of budget. And this is the principles and the foundation pieces that we look at while we're coming up with our fee structure and schedule. That might help provide some clarity, I believe, what you're looking for.
Is that something that you kind of have it within your purview to just forge forward with, or would it be helpful to have some direction from council to request
I believe we're working on it actively.
And this work that's currently under consideration in Councillor Murray's motion is kind of detached from that? It wouldn't affect it one way or the other?
I think the analysis in this report would not have to rely on the principal statements, the more guiding documents, but they would complement each other when we bring them forward at the end, yes.
Okay, thank you. That helps me know how I can vote on this motion, and I look forward to seeing that other work come forward.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod and Mr. Bohachek and Councillor Hyde, and then we will go to a vote.
Yeah, just really quick. I think that this has kind of been beaten around the bush, and Ms. Niesink isn't here on the economic development side. And I think that is a portion of this, and it's a portion of this with all the different communities is what type of fees are they why are they doing the fees they're doing? Very much Councillor Van Newkirk was talking about too is, what are you getting for your value, I guess, when you're when you have a higher fee, and what type of community and all of the work around it. But what are you trying to attract to your city around that structure, and do the fees help you or hinder you in certain ways? And I think that, it's unfair to speak about that without economic development here. So I would like to see an economic development portion in with this discussion as to why, again, justifying the fees that we have, and are we trying to attract people because our fees are less or not? That's the piece I think that is missing in this. It's not as simple a conversation as Leduc is higher than us, why don't we hire? It's got to be a little bit more in depth than that, I think. So I'd like to see an economic development portion of this and more justification around it than just simple a fee structure. But I will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. And at the end of the day, we still have a decision to make when you get the information as well. So it's not like we're said and done, right? But I don't know if there's any changes you want to make to that wording-wise. Are you good with it? Otherwise, you can speak to it.
No, I think that I'll keep it as it is. Again, just sort of as a closing. Where our land use bylaw is, as Ms. Raymond has stated in previous meetings, different and unique than many others. And we've seen some developers make changes to original plans and asking for land use bylaw changes, where we even have that as an example currently right now on the table for 9 Colonial Way. I think that looking at these fees and charges specifically that are going to be, again, hitting up administration for more work and potentially changing what our city looks like, I don't think it's a bad idea for us to look at increasing those rates significantly to match or get better, closer to what Edmonton is charging. So this is why I've put this motion forward, and hopefully everybody can support that.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. So we'll go to a vote right now. Thank you, everyone, for your discussion. And that carried unanimously. Okay, moving right along here. I think, oh, we have another one. You're getting full use of your voice tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. That by the end of December 2025, the City of Beaumont provide written notice to Edmonton Global of the city's intention to withdraw as a shareholder as per Article 42 of the Articles of Association of Edmonton Metropolitan Region Economic Development Company. So I put this motion forward. It was a discussion that was made a few weeks ago. So just following through with that, Edmonton Global is looking to bring a lot of partnerships with what I understood was that there's big partnerships with big companies, and these companies and Beaumont may not really mix, and we're paying a very large sum to be part of this membership. And the question was whether we think that Edmonton Global is a group that we would like to remain with. And I believe that at this point, we could withdraw our membership and focus some of our efforts in other areas.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Yes, I just would just echo that, because Edmonton Global does bring a lot of, they go looking for foreign investors to come to invest in the communities, and we've been a member for a number of years, which I think has served well in some respects. But I think given the nature of our community, where we're at, that we can get the same kind of services through, and just wanted to echo, because our economic development team also mentioned that they can get the same services through Invest Alberta and other places that would be more relevant to our community in terms of the work that they do. So I support this for sure. So we're going to go to Councillor Penrod and Van Newkirk.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, no additional questions on my part. I'll be supporting this motion. I just note that it does come recommended already by our administration, which is why I don't have any further questions on it. And I believe, maybe just to clarify, that came through in budget subsequent material or additional materials. I think it was the service level review and the roll-up of recommendations attached to that report. So thanks for bringing it forward, Councillor Murray.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happened. I will say too, and the thought just flew out of my mind. I was going to say something. Would you like to do a closing?
No, I don't think that's necessary.
I think it's important for us to let the public know that at this point, what this motion will do if it passes is that we give Edmonton Global notice that we are going to be withdrawing the membership, and it's a 2-year notice. So we're still on the hook for 2 years of that membership. But we need to give them 2 years notice. So, all right. So if there's no closing, we'll go to a vote. And that passed unanimously. All right, how are we doing? Can we keep going? Anybody need a break? We're good? Okay, let's barrel through this. We're going to go to Councillor Penrod. I believe you're up next.
Thanks, Mayor. Hopefully this one is fairly straightforward. I move that by the end of Q3 2026, administration prepare a proposed policy outlining how and when council-approved capital projects are brought to council for progress updates that include budget expenditures, timelines, and scope, and how updates are reported to the community. So this is just my effort as a subsequent motion to close the loop on a change that we made in our budget process this year, which is to blind off some of the values that are attached to individual projects on the advice that we can get better, stretch our dollars better in procurement doing that. So we've taken that as an emerging best practice. And this motion, I hope, just helps close that loop so that it's something we talked about during budget, is that we wanted to make sure there was still visibility to the community and that we would be able to report to the community after procurement is done and the work is on its way towards being completed, the value that we've received for those dollars. So again, it's just closing the loop, paying that information off, and this will put it in a policy form so that it's a predictable piece year after year. And that's the spirit of it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any discussion? Okay, we'll go to vote. Would you like to close? You good? And that passed unanimously, carried unanimously. All right, you're up again. Councillor Penrod. Oops, wrong mic there. Go for it.
Thanks, Mayor Vanderkwak. I move that the major and operating projects grant application by Excel Artistic Swimming for $10,000 in each of 2026, 2027, and 2028 be approved. Again, this is just a bit of housekeeping. We need to have this motion on the books. We've already budgeted for this, and so don't want to belabor it. Just bringing it forward so that all the I's are dotted and the T's crossed.
Thank you. I know you had mentioned before that in the past there's been situations where that wasn't done until the new year, and so it left those organizations waiting. So this is good that you're doing it right now. Thank you for that. Any questions, comments? Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, just to double check from administration to confirm that this has already been included in the approved budget.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk, it has. It's part of the envelope that is existing there. It's just council had to make a decision if they wanted to approve the application for the grant.
Thank you.
Perfect. If there's no other questions, comments, Councillor Hyde.
Just a really quick question that they still have to, through the mayor to Mr. Suter, they still have to, of course, provide yearly updates as to progress and budget and such like that to you in order to release the funding. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde, yes, there's an annual interim report, progress report, and then at the end of the 3-year agreement, then there's a final report that's completed, yes.
And that report is reviewed by yourself, or it does not come to council after we've approved this, is that correct?
That's correct. It's reviewed by administration. There's a bunch of parameters that they would agree to during with the funding agreement that they have to meet. If they're willing to accept that, the funding is released, and then we look for those markers when the time comes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Suter. Okay, if there's no further questions, comments, feel you need to close. Okay, we're going to go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. All right, so we're going to go. Which one of you are going to, is that the next one? I think both your names are on this, so. Who's going to do it? Okay, Councillor Penrod. Okay.
It wouldn't have to be synchronized. We could do an artistic presentation.
We're going to have to be concise so we can get through it.
Yeah.
Excel in artistic.
So just to acknowledge, I got to move at the budget, probably the most obvious piece of the budget, which was to adjust our transit service levels. I know that was work that lots of other folks had queued up, and it was just a quirk of the process that my name got attached to that. So this is just to acknowledge that Councillor Murray and I have been kind of working on this back end of that piece. So I move that by the end of Q2 2026, administration produce an app report that provides information on the current state of transit services and explores the risks and opportunities associated with altering transit service levels. Specifically, this report should contemplate the following scenarios: reducing daily transit operations to 8 hours per day, 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon; discontinuing Sunday service; operating hourly on weekdays and Saturdays; replacing the scheduled stop at Ellerslie Road and 50th Street with a stop available upon rider request; liquidating one or more transit bus currently being underutilized; and include any notice requirements or legal obligations that must be considered for these proposed service changes. So again, the nature of this motion is to ask for the report. To Mayor Vanderkwak's earlier point, once that report comes, it would be a further decision of council to improve, decrease, change, or stay status quo based on the information we receive from administration. And you can see the specific lists that is included are just individual things that from different reports we'd been reading, Councillor Murray and I had contemplated. It's just to be sure that we get specific feedback and information related to those, but those aren't intended to be exhaustive. And we trust that administration will bring back further opportunities to make our transit system, I guess what I want to say is make it more efficient and make sure that it's delivering most to the folks who are most relying on it currently. And with that, I'll leave it for opening comments.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Yeah, so just want to remind everyone, just keep your comments, questions, if you can go concise, that would be awesome so we can get through. Go ahead, Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to add to that was through the mayor, Councillor Penrod, can we explore options for marketing on the bus itself? Oh. I'm just asking.
That fits into a
it'd be
different
nice to see some
category of the
marketing.
purpose of this one, though, wouldn't it not? Like, would that serve a different purpose?
It would
Would that be a
increase
separate- that
efficiency
would be
and
a
costs.
separate-
It would
yeah?
it would reduce costs on the bus is what I'm looking at, is by exploring marketing.
Yeah, so I think, I don't think we would be opposed. As I said, the points are not exhausted. What I don't want to get into is hashing out an exhaustive list here on
Yeah.
the table. Like, maybe we could have even made this less specific, but I think the most important answer to your question that you got was a sure from the back of the room.
Some sort of whisper in the back, I don't know
Or
what
was
it
that
was, but
sarcastic?
explore marketing on the bus would just be something I would add to it. It's just an extra bullet point. I'm just trying to reduce costs on the bus is all I'm trying to do. And if I can throw a little bit of marketing on the bus for a few $1,000s a year, well, that helps.
I like it. I'm just wondering if it needs to be like a different motion, because I believe they have most of this information.
A suggestion I'd make is add a bullet to this, that you just, to bolt on the ideas of marketing. We have explored a number of them, so we'll be able
Okay,
to
perfect.
add that. I don't know if that's a friendly LMS or.
Just looking at my
Good.
colleague, I think we would consider that friendly.
Friendly
Yeah.
amendment.
If you're okay with that, then Councillor Penrod and Councillor Murray, then I'd just like to add that bullet point.
Okay. Yes. Continuing on, Councillor Van Newkirk. Sorry, I
Yeah.
thought you were looking at me for a question or something. Sorry about that.
No problem. First of all, I recognize that you need to do work to get options, so that's my preface here. Question for administration. Passing this motion, passing this motion inherently requires partner organizations to put in a bunch of time to get options for us. My question is what is the anticipated time allocation that this council would be asking from partner organizations to gather this information? Is it lots, little, in between? What does that look like?
Mr. Suter? Mr. Lewicki, okay.
Sorry, that confused me. Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. A lot of this information we've looked at various different situations through the years on this, and I think we can put this together. I mean, it's going to take some effort, but I'm not seeing it take a lot of effort. It's going to take some time, but I think we have some of this already. I mean, some of this is already going to be in motion for consideration. So I would say some, but not a lot. I don't know how to quantify that specifically, but.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewicki. Did you want to have another question? Are you going to closing? Okay, go ahead.
Close, yeah. And you want to close now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess just to tie a bow on it, we're looking for information. We have heard loud and clear from the community that we want to kind of take a step back and look at the transit service we're offering and rationalize it. This motion doesn't really make any presumption as to what that rationalization will look like. We've just put out some ideas that we've heard, both internally from administration and externally in the community as to how we might rationalize the service. The last point I wanted to make is just to tie into what Councillor Van Newkirk had just said. We have just gone through a change, again, through an election across the region, and we're hearing already some signals that other municipalities may be more inclined towards regional conversations again. And so hopefully the timing that's contemplated here doesn't bind us to a decision before we can start to see more again of is there real interest in the region to exploring those and yeah, so this will just be information we'll have in our pocket by the end of Q2 2026 to be able to contemplate what's being suggested across the region better and how we might participate in that or not at that time to the best service of our residents. So thanks for considering the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Okay, we will go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Okay, we are up to the last two motions here, and then we have some councillor inquiries. So Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. I'll move that administration develop a planning and development community engagement program to enhance ongoing public involvement and two-way dialogue in the planning and development process, including in-person, digital, and other engagement methods, and that by the end of Q2 2026, administration provide a report to council outlining the proposed program design, estimated costs, and potential funding sources. So just to speak to this motion, this motion began as an item I wanted to bring forward at budget and during the budget process. During that process, I determined that we'd be creating policy on the fly and trying to allocate a budget on the fly to something that I think is very important to the community. So I chose to move it over into a subsequent motion. What I'm asking for council's support on tonight is the Community Growth Committee idea, just titled differently. It was in development processes attached to all the stuff and things we do in the community that sometimes are detached time-wise. Would be what this motion contemplates is the creation of a place outside of all of those other process planning and development issues in the community. What this report I ask for is what I see as the next step in the creation of a community growth committee, under the guise of a community engagement program, because it truly is a community engagement piece focused on planning and development. And I'm somewhere to go talk, learn, bring, distribute trusted information, local, community specific, and real, which isn't existing in some of our social media right now. So just really trying to get the next step in the process and looking for council's support to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. Councillor Hyde, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I get where Councillor Van Newkirk is Beaumont community together rather than just having something happen in a specific neighborhood. Let's pick on Dance Row for instance, and say, okay, this is going up in Dance Row, so now it's Dance Row's issue. This is coming up in Four Seasons, now it's Four Seasons issue. So what it can do is bring the community more together as a whole, as opposed to pockets of the community bringing certain things forward. This way, it's just a different type of engagement program where you could have potentially have people from different communities throughout the city be able to be engaged in what is going on throughout the entire city as opposed to just their neighborhood. That's why I would support what this looks like in the end. I'm not quite sure, but it's another step in the process to have a engagement program with the entire city as opposed to just one area of the city whenever something all of a sudden springs up. And I think that it's needed in our community to bring our community together as opposed to what we hear, which is, wow, this is coming up my city. I didn't this area, and I didn't even know it. But we'd get more of that section across the entire city. So I'll be supporting this motion going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. CAO Schwartz, did you want to speak to
Yeah,
that?
thank you. Great motion and something that I think would be very interesting with the community. A couple things I want to say. One about the Q2 deadline. I'm not sure if we're going to hit that, but I'm fine with leaving it up there. If you're fine with us coming back at Q1 and saying, you know what, we believe we can incorporate some of this work into the engagement work we're doing with the MDP. We think we can cover some of the costs through that, but we may need to come back once we dig into this a little bit more and say, hey, can you either allow us another queue, or we need some budget money, or here's a status report. So just giving you a heads up. Sounds like it's something that's going to be supported, so I just wanted to provide that information.
Yeah, thank you. And that was kind of the spirit of the proposed program design piece, to just allow that layer of flexibility. I really want administrative buy-in on this, because I think that is very important to the positive outcomes of this. So where there are synergies, great. There will be required targeted engagement for different stuff and things, but where there are synergies to dovetail on, great. At the end of the day, my one wish and hope is that it is an entity separate of all of the individual pieces that we can go to. I just don't know how that's going to come together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. Just a quick question in regards to, then we'll go to you, Councillor Penrod. In regards to planning development, specifically, you specifically want to focus on that area?
Sorry, Mayor, I keep turning my microphone off. Yeah, I put that as a focus here because, and the reason I did that is because when I think about other aspects of the community, there are places to go already. We have the Recreation and Culture Committee, we have the Youth Committee, we have the Arts Committee. There are committees of council that already exist, I think, to funnel issues through, and the planning development growth piece didn't have a place to go, and that, I'm hoping that this can become that place to go.
Yeah.
So that's all I was thinking.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Just to fill a gap where there's a gap. Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor. And the only thing I'll add is the timing to CEO Schwartz's point. I think there's another piece that also fits in with this, which is the council strategic planning process. And without being presumptuous of that process, I think you said, well, this is an issue that we all heard, and it wasn't just on the campaign trail. It's been boiling or coming to a boil in our community for years now, and we just haven't yet been able to find a good way to address it, partly because it's a complex problem, and so we're coming at it from a rewrite of the MDP, LUB. This is another piece where we can consult with the community more. So hopefully, CEO Schwartz, that's another avenue where we might be able to find some synergies between the work of council and in that strategic planning process. And that'll hopefully give you some more clear direction from council as well as to where we would be aiming at in this process.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. So I just want to give you opportunity, did you want to move that to Q3, change it to Q3, or just leave it as it is and be okay with any requests coming back?
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable just leaving where it is, and we'll see what administration is able to do. If there's an extension required, or, you know, as Councillor Penrod just suggested, there's a strategic plan in between. Maybe we have some other great idea that supersedes even this. I'm not sure. So
Sure.
we'll just play that part by ear.
Okay, good. Did you want to speak to a closing before
No,
we vote?
thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to a vote right now. Thank you. And that passed unanimously. All right, we're at our last motion before we get into the councillor inquiries, and then we're on the final stretch. So by the end of Q1 2026, administration provided a report to council that includes a preliminary assessment and cost estimate for repairing or replacing the light standard located on the island Four Seasons Park. The reason why I'm bringing this motion forward, it's kind of like, you know, when you have something in the back of your head you know you got to do, and it's there all the time. It drains your energy. It takes all this stuff. At some point, you got to just close the loop, fix the problem, and move on, make a decision. And I feel like this issue is an issue that's been ongoing, and it has created other problems that I've heard from residents about safety around the lake, because the light is not working when they're walking their dog in the wintertime, and, you know, even in summertime, and when it's darker, as well as other times it's creating a problem. And now that we've also approved to clear snow on the lake, I feel like we just need to diagnose the problem, determine what we need to do next, and then make the decision what needs to happen. But unless we know actually what the problem is, we can't actually make a decision about this, and we don't know what to tell people the problem is. So I know that it had been suggested one way, but I know that Councillor Hyde had mentioned during budget deliberations that there's other ways. So I don't believe we have to pay $30,000 to get this done. There are more cost-effective ways. So I would just like to put forth a motion that we actually diagnose the problem and make a decision on what to do next. So I'm going to go to Councillor Murray and then Councillor Colesmith.
Thank you, Mayor. I do support this motion. I actually think it's very important that we look at the services, or for example, this Four Seasons Park as what it actually is, and that's an asset. Part of, you know, providing a solution to the light that is not currently working, because I would love for it to just get done and not have to do a report to that little island and really evaluate it so sooner, and see if we could at least find out, because we're been changed yet.
I agree. And we can change wording for that.
There are smarter ways to do that. Maybe we don't even replace the light standard in the island. We have light repaired for this year is probably going to be very tough when it comes down to, which is why we let it go. And I hear you around service, and that was a conscious decision that we made because of the cost being cost prohibitive. What do we look for in the future? What makes sense?
Yeah, when I say report, even if you Councillor Colesmith and then Councillor Hyde, but those are really great questions.
And, you know, the desire to do it sooner rather than later, and that summer's coming and you wouldn't have access, but in the summer you likely aren't going to need much light.
Colesmith, Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Everybody, it's complicated on the island because this is just going to be an ongoing issue. Why keep it on the island if it's going to be an issue? So I'd like to add glorified bird stand. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to get it moved off that island, because this is just going to be an issue for other councils in the future, or something with something other than where it is, because it's a nuisance at this point.
Replacing the light standard, but now I see it. You're right, it does say located on the island. In the report, we were going to come back with all light standards, but if you want to change any of that.
Yeah, it didn't necessarily mean to keep it on the island if that was not the most effective way.
So I just want to add that relocating, just because I think that that's probably the best option at this point. I mean, obviously we want to get a light. If a bird has gone up there and pecked out a wire, obviously we don't know that yet. So again, unit, so that we don't offload that cost onto next councilors and previous and new administrations.
Is clear on this at this point, but if you wanted to just add currently before the word those might make it abundantly clear.
Thank you for that. Councillor Murray?
Yeah, I'm just hoping that when they look, so that we can get the report, that somebody actually brings a light bulb with them up the ladder to try. Because I almost guarantee the light standard probably works. Please.
I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, okay, I don't want just a report. Do that, but then determine, okay, what's it going to cost for us to move this if we need to move it, right? So we have a simple fix. If this shut, then we know, okay, we have a different problem. So that is the spirit behind this. It's not just a written report, but it's like someone going and actually assessing. Thank you, Councillor CAO.
Yeah, we're on the same page if we end up going up.
We just want to make that real clear. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Okay, if no one else has anything, then let's go to vote. And we're waiting on one person to vote. There you go. Okay. Carried unanimously. Well done, everyone. We're going to move on now to the councillor inquiries. I believe that's our next on our list here.
Mayor.
These should be pretty straightforward. Secretary?
Yes, Mayor, I just need 1 minute.
This should go fairly quickly in this next section. Not that Oh, guys. Great, we will get started. All right, so we're going to, okay. And these are simply,
So yes, Mayor, if when the counselor sees their name, or mayor, just to read out your inquiry, and then we'll move on to the next one, and so on and so on.
okay, and just for the public, this is information we've already received, and we're just acknowledging it, correct?
No, these are the new inquiries. The information received are informationally included in the agenda. These ones are just reading out, and then these ones will be answered and included in the next
Okay,
council agenda.
sorry about that. Please provide information on any options for Saunderville businesses to use city-owned property for additional temporary parking. Please include what would be the next steps, if any, for these businesses. Please provide information on whether a daycare business can restrict parking on a public street by adding signs for 15-minute parking zone that would allow parents to drop off and pick up their children. If so, please include next steps. Please provide information on whether or not the city has any options that could help residents with parking concerns in high-density residential areas. Please also include information on if there would be an opportunity on implementing a residential parking program. Councillor Hyde.
Caught me in the middle. Please provide information on the process for determining how municipal reserve park space are used, including what type of structures are allowed and where they are placed.
Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
This inquiries are on utility boxes. Please provide information on the following questions. Who owns the property located at 501 62 Ave? What is the approval process and who has the final decision where a larger utility box is placed on property? And were there any clearance requirements from property lines or something similar that needed to be considered when placing the utility box in the current physical location? Thank you.
And Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Thank you. This is around civic addresses. Please identify and provide information on any barriers that may exist with issuing a civic address to municipally approved secondary suites for the purposes of Canada Post or other courier services being able to make deliveries or deliver mail. If barriers do exist, what is the timeline to have these concerns resolved?
Councillor Tellenbos.
Thank you. Please provide information on whether the 50th Ave west of 57th Street up to Range Road 243 is a dual or single lane road. And please provide information on process, on the process and associated cost for converting a portion of 52 Avenue to a loading zone parking. Sorry, text keeps moving. For allowing easier access for those who may have mobility challenges, as well to allow traffic to turn right while heading east when not occupied.
Councillor Colesmith.
Thank you. Please provide information on the steps required to add a memorial bench program within the city of Beaumont and any previous fundings that may have been previously been reported to council.
Whoops, we have one more, I think, right? Nope. Okay, the last one. For Councillor Hyde? I'm sorry, you're going to speak to it? CEO Schwartz, did you want?
No, I'm going to speak after his.
Oh, okay,
CEO.
sorry. Is there not one here for, there's one on the agenda here? Councillor Hyde, age-friendly strategy?
Oh, those ones were ones that were already answered. We provided
Am I looking at
responses
the
to
wrong
those
ones? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right then, so where are we next on our agenda here? CAO update, is that correct? I'll go for you.
Yeah, I've got quite a long update. I'm not going to go through it all. But before we leave the CIs, I want to ask council if they would consider with the timing right now, we have a meeting on the 16th. There's a significant number of CIs. I think there was 8 or 9 of them. By our policy, we have 10 days to respond. So if we take 10 days, that's going to put us past the 16th. So they're not going to get into next week's agenda. The next meeting we have is January 13th. So what I would like council to consider is giving us a little bit more time, and that as we get them done, we'll send them out in emails, but we will include them in the January 13th agenda package. So some of them you may not get until that agenda package, but I'm hoping to get them all to you. So just asking for a little leeway, sheer volume and the time of year. So that's okay? Did I say that right? Okay.
That's fine, yeah.
I do need a minute. I do need a motion from council because we're temporarily suspending the meeting procedures rules to allow that to happen if council is open for that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear.
Because the timelines fall within the meeting procedures bylaw, I would need a motion to suspend the meeting procedures rules to allow that to happen.
Okay, okay.
So you're going to type that motion up? While you do, why don't I go through the
Go for
CAO's
it.
update? There's
Yeah.
a few things I want to talk about, but you've got them in your package. Tomorrow is Human Rights Day, a very important day. It's a universal declaration of human rights, recognize people of race, color, religion, sex, language, national and social origins, property, birth, and other status. It's one of the significant days that we recognize here in Beaumont. Brighten Up Beaumont is taking place on December 13th. It's a new format this year. It's going to be done here at City Hall and Library with all kinds of activities. I think it's going to be outstanding, and it's a part of a bigger winter celebration that we want to transition to. We are a winter city. We should be celebrating it more than just one day. So you're going to see proposals come in future budgets to do this and really turn this into a downtown event. We do have all kinds of safety protocols in place. Everything is receives special permits and considerations so from health and safety, including the cold. And we're expecting it to get cold this weekend, so we'll watch it and we'll give people as much notice as we possibly can. Engagement festival event strategy. We're going to be going out to the community and asking them what they like and dislike and what they want more of and less of. So you'll see that starting on December 13th. Had an outstanding several months at the BYOC with bringing in new people, including they had an event last newcomer family night. They had over 40 children. So that's part of expanding that program at the youth center. It's a very well used program. National Child Day was November 20th. This year's theme was Our Rights and Our Future, and I'll let you read that. Protective Services will be conducting check stops. It still blows my mind that people actually get pulled over for impaired driving in today's day and age. So I ask everybody, if you're going to drink, to look for an alternate way to get home. A bunch of planning and development items there. I won't go through them all. If there's any questions, you can fire away because we have Kendra in the room. And you can see an update on the boarded rinks are up and running, and the others will soon to follow. So, Aaron talked earlier, Director Nowicki, about the freezing rain and how it's led to some slippery spots on trails and roads. So please be careful. That's all I had. Did I give you enough time?
Thank you.
In the package, or the minutes packet.
Okay, good. I was going to ask about that because we have the
I'm going
previous
to
one.
back up while we're waiting for this and talk about Edmonton Global. By providing 2 years notice, we still get to use any of the services that they provide. So if at any time something miraculously were to occur and all of a sudden it became something good for Beaumont, then you still have that option. So I see there's some questions, so I'll stop killing time.
Councillor Penrod and then Van Newkirk.
Thanks, Mayor. Couple quick questions. Thanks for the report. Are you able to speak, CEO Schwartz, is there a go, no-go temperature for the Brighten Up Beaumont on Saturday?
Yeah, and of course it considers wind chill, but as is in this report, it's in around the minus 25, but that will depend on wind chill as well. We don't want people getting
Thanks.
frostbite.
And I know it's a favorite event. Is there, I know Leduc had to cancel or postpone the Santa Claus parade the other weekend.
Oh, I
so
didn't realize
Or at
that.
least we're not messing with Santa.
Yeah.
But is there an alternate date contemplated if the weather doesn't cooperate on Saturday?
I'm not sure
Not
about
to get
that.
too far
I
into
don't believe so, because everything gets booked up for that date and then it's booked elsewhere.
So glad we got to promote that event here tonight. I know it's a community favorite. Just stay tuned on social media cross your fingers, say your prayers, all the things that we do for a good weather day. Other question was just around, and I double checked with the clerk to make sure I'm not offside on this. I know one of the pieces we dealt with on the consent agenda was a letter from Beaumont to make a submission to the Boundaries Commission review, and there's a communication piece contemplated in that. Just wondered if you can speak to when that might go out to the community. I just note that's a pretty tight deadline for community members, and there's already chatter on social media, community members that are wanting to make their own submissions. Thank you.
Ms. Stargy.
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. We've been in communication with Communications, and so they are aware of putting this out in a timely manner and then of the deadline. I can't say specifically when it would go out, but it is also public, and deadline to make a submission is December 19th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And like I said, their community, just if people are what the city has come up with, stay tuned. Thanks.
Okay, so we need to do a motion here to extend our meeting or to suspend the meeting by law. I'll go ahead and do that. That the rules under sections 140 of Meeting Procedures Bylaw 1014-22 be suspended to allow administration additional time to respond to council inquiries made at the December 9th, 2025 regular council meeting, and for the responses to be included in the January 13, 2025 council meeting agenda. Any discussion? Vote? Oh, did you want to speak to that, Councillor Murray? I'm sorry, Penrod?
Yeah, I think they caught it, but it's January 13th, 2026.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go for a vote. And that passed unanimously. Okay, so is this the part where you go into closed session, or CAO? You have a question?
Yeah, there's no need to go to closed session. It was in, on the
Everything was
consent.
consent.
I did want to say thank you for that motion. That's going to give us some time and some breathing room. I also want to make an observation, and this was passed along to me by one of our administrative staff, and it makes perfect sense, is you're making notices of motion right now, and in a couple cases tonight, they were withdrawn. That's normal. It's the beginning of a term. There's so many things that you want to do. There's so many things that we still want to be information we want to pass along to you. So what sounds like a notice of motion when you walk in here, and then after some conversation with colleagues and admin, realize, you know what, can pull it, don't look at that as not being successful, because it's getting the conversation out on the table in the public, and then if it makes sense to pull it, you pull it. If not, you vote on it, and you'll see this will get into a good rhythm.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, I think that's it, right, Madam Clerk? Nothing else on the agenda? Thank you, fellow councillors, for your robust conversation and debate and questions and things. Thank you for and thank you for administration for the work that you've done as well, and for all they put into preparing for this. So I officially call this meeting adjourned, 8:30.